Manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says they will still show City plenty of respect.
They can out-football you, so we need to get our game heads on and be ready for them again. But we've shown them as well that we can cause them problems.
The other semi-final will pit Leicester City against Aston Villa after Leicester beat Everton 4-2 on penalties after it ended 2-2 at Goodison Park. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp remains hopeful that Virgil van Dijk can play in Saturday's Club World Cup final. The Dutch defender missed yesterday's 2-1 semi-final win over Monterrey through illness, while Liverpool needed an injury-time goal from Roberto Firmino to set up a final meeting with Flamengo. And Celtic have now a 5-point lead over Rangers at the top of the Scottish Premiership. They won by 2-0 at struggling Hearts with goals from Ryan Christie and Olivier Ntcham. Rangers can cut the deficit back to 2 by beating Hibs tomorrow night. In rugby, former Ireland and Leinster scrum coach Greg Feek has been confirmed as part of the new All Blacks backroom team. He'll work under new head coach Ian Foster. Feek worked with Joe Schmidt in each of his last 2 jobs. While in darts, Limerick's Willie O'Connor will look to cause an upset at the PDC World Darts Championship tonight. He faces third seed Gerwyn Price in the final second round match of the night at Alexandra Palace. For OTB Sports Radio, I'm Tom Malone.
The most memorable Irish sporting moment of the decade.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
Amateur boxing stinks from the core right to the top.
Oh, Robbie Brady, you hero!
Olympic champion, I've dreamed of this moment so many times.
It's spinning! It's spinning!
Yeah, you're very welcome along to a Decade in a Day. It's a very special early start time for us here on OTB AM today. We're here with you all the way until 10 o'clock this morning. And we're actually here all day on OTB Sports Radio because we're looking back on the entire decade. You know, you can do this in 2019. You can look back on the arbitrary time frame of 2010 to 2019 and make decisions about what was good, what was important, what was bad, and what's gone wrong.
What on earth do we do on a year where there is no 9 at the end of it? Like, it just seems like 12 months ago was a far more boring place.
Work, actual work. We we don't just lazily lean back and talk nonsense about things that we can't be corrected on because it's purely conjecture, Eoin. That's what we do.
There have been some, I would like to say there have been some right takes and some wrong takes in this realm of conjecture that you speak about, which has been our decade subject over the past 2.5 weeks or thereabouts. So, no, I think there is room to be right and there is room to be wrong. And today we will be crowning the most right sports moment of the decade.
Yeah, so it's down to the last 2. It's kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
Were they seeded?
Well, 4 events were seeded, and to be fair, I would say these would have been number 1 and number 2. We're talking about Shane Lowry and we're talking about Kelly Taylor.
Yeah.
Shane Long and Robbie Brady were always going to come close. They were the other 2 of the top 4 seeds, and lo and behold, that was the semi-final lineup we had. Things have gone to form so far. There have been no massive upsets except for that Galway one knocking Stephen Cluxton out in the first round.
Was it one-sided?
I think the 2 semi-finals, the second semi-final was not one-sided. Katie Taylor struggled to get past Robbie Brady. As you'd imagine, Robbie Brady was a great moment, but Katie Taylor snuck past, whereas Shane Lowry trounced Shane Long. So that might suggest that Shane Lowry does have the slight upper hand.
Yeah, 2 separate questions here. What is the outcome going to be, not what are you going to vote for?
I'm going to vote for Katie Taylor.
That's not the question I just asked you.
I think
I actually asked you not to answer that question first.
I thought it was 2 separate questions.
2 separate questions?
Yeah, and then I was going to come back to your question.
What's going to win? Right, okay.
Katie Taylor's going to win.
She's going to, because you're voting for it. You swung it there now with your Mr. Influencer. I'm a YouTuber.
I've got a lot of sway.
A so-called YouTuber.
Well, I've got, once I speak, the people tend to follow. So
good man, yeah.
Get ready for a Katie Taylor win this afternoon.
I feel like we have a communication issue here.
Well, you did ask me. Usually the great way to answer a question is actually just create a bit of tension and then actually answer the question after a period of time. So after taking a bit of time, it's going to be Katie Taylor who wins it. I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, the recency bias has crept in here big time with a lot of things. Now, if Shane Lowry wins it, nobody's going to begrudge him. But if this event took place in 2015, I wonder, would he be in this position even?
Yeah, if this had taken place in 2009, would Harrington have automatically won? Is golf the thing?
No, Harrington would not automatically have won because you can't equate what Padraig Harrington did in 2009 with what Shane Lowry did in 2019 because Padraig Harrington had won his 3rd major in 2009 Shane Lowry won his first major. Shane Lowry is...
So Padraig Harrington should have won then, right? For the last decade.
Well, the whole idea of... We become normalised to Padraig Harrington as a major winner, whereas that was part of the magic of Shane Lowry this year, was that we hadn't seen him win a major before. He came so close 3 years previously at Oakmont, and we thought that was his one chance. Like, he obviously had a few very, very tough years after that, and we thought that like he might fade into mediocrity, and that just did not happen this year, and that was part of it. Like, you would make the argument as well that perhaps Shane Lowry is even more beloved than Padraig Harrington, but Harrington's bloody popular as well, and it's hard to pick a sporting moment from that decade where you would have had the entire country just really chuffed for an Irish sports person doing really well. And I think Lowry and Harrington would have had that in common.
Okay, so you're, 25? So you're 15 at the start of the decade, is that right?
That's true, yeah.
What was the best thing that you were at over the course of the entire decade?
Well, the most incredible moment that I was at was certainly the 2011 football final. Like I guess...
Where they lose? Where Kerry lose?
The most incredible thing was that, for sure.
Which bit? The free kick?
The comeback. The comeback from Dublin, being in the hill and seeing this, being enveloped by it. My friend beside me chanting, "You're not singing anymore" to the Dublin fans when Kerry were a few points up later on. And I knew when he was doing it that this was not going to end well. I was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Did you say that?
Yes, I did. I was like, "Shut up. Shut up." And
but like, I mean, that's the whole point of being a sports fan, right? You get to do these ridiculous things.
Not mid-game.
Come on, you do. You're supposed to be a bit stupid. That's fine. It's not like, as long as there's nothing too aggressive in it.
No, he wasn't aggressive. I don't think two Kerry men at the back of the hill could possibly even come across as aggressive. But yeah, I will never forget that, and it is still. It's still a bone of contention for me. The whole final is a bone of contention, but it was amazing. It was an amazing thing to have a partisan feeling on, and then come away with your heart ripped out of your chest. Like, I can't imagine what it's like. I know those players have all spoken about it, but like I'm sure. Like, actually, do you know what? There's almost a sense that there hasn't been a full sense of catharsis even throughout the sports books that have been written by that team or in the media about what that final was to them, which was just...
Because they won loads of other ones.
Maybe, but like...
Do you know, it's not...
You see what that started for Dublin as well, and...
Yeah.
Like, there are numerous elements. So for me, it'd be that, like... I'm trying to think, I obviously wasn't up in Portrush this year. I was at a couple of the Irish Opens when they were in Killarney. I've never been to an Olympics game. I kind of regret that, not getting over to London when like they were on our doorstep. But I guess I've only been working in sports broadcasting for less than half a decade or whatever. So ask me in 10 years.
The World Cup doesn't feature.
Oh, I was at the World Cup. Yeah,
watching Ireland being beaten by Japan.
Well, as a sporting event, it was incredible. Like Ireland getting hammered by the All Blacks after. Fields Vattenrye drowns out the Haka.
That was class.
It's certainly memorable.
It is.
It's certainly memorable, and maybe that's
like we won the anthems that night against Denmark when they hammered us 5-1 as well.
There was that as well. Yeah,
that was an amazing build-up. It was like, oh, we're going to the World Cup.
Yeah, sensational, absolutely sensational. So, like, there may be kind of a sense of anti-recency bias going on with that All Blacks game, where in a few years' time, if Irish fortunes turn around again, we may actually be able to look back on what we've failed to do with a bit more. I don't know what the emotion would be, but kind of saying, well, at least something good came out of it, perhaps. We just don't know. We're at a cliff at the moment. We have no idea.
It's true. It's true. Look, I mean, if James Ryan comes back and when he's holding aloft the William Webb Ellis, he pinpoints that day as the day that something. Don't know. I mean, this is like complete fantasy. So we're stretching there.
But you did mention. I think it was you that mentioned in the debates that this year's World Cup just was not going to feature whatsoever. This year's failings just did not feature whatsoever. When in actual fact, the year from hell is often how good stories start.
Is it?
It's often how some stories start.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't know. If that's the case, the FAI are on the verge of a bright, new, broad, sunlit uplands period of their existence, because this has definitely been the year from hell for them. I'm going to give you an opportunity to enter our competition, and then I'm going to tell you what's coming up, and then we'll get into the papers, because there's loads of good stuff in them. Some brilliant prizes to give away all week this week. We're doing a gift guide every day for you in the build-up to Christmas. Don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to save you here on OTBM, and it's all with thanks to Best Menswear. A little later on this morning, we're going to be bringing you our gift guide for sporting events of 2020. We also have a €150 made-to-measure shirt from Best Menswear to give away. To enter the draw, all we're asking you to do is to tell us about the best sporting event that you attended this decade. You can tweet us, you can comment, you can use the hashtag OTBDecade. That's our hashtag for the entire day today. And we're gonna just, as you spit them out at us across the show between now and 10 o'clock, we're going to deal with them. I'm trying to think about the best stuff that I've been at. I saw the All Blacks team that won the World Cup in London for their World Cup final. The game was so easy for them. It was just like this beautiful, balletic performance where they squashed Australia and Dan Carter glided across the ground and threw passes that were like, it felt like they were the width of the pitch, perfectly high, straight onto that amazing team. So that was good to see them at the peak of their powers. I was at the Ireland All Blacks game here where they where they beat us. The original one, not the one where they killed Robbie Henshaw. That was an amazing experience. Literally sitting on the edge of your seat for about 75 minutes because we scored two early tries, and the retaken conversion at the end, just like, oh God, look at this. That was an amazing experience to be at. And then I was in Chicago for that one.
Chicago has to be the best experience, all-round experience.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Like it's
like those American stadiums are weird, and they're class. There's no cover really.
But like it's the whole situation around that game, which certainly had me feeling a bit of FOMO. It's a bit more than just the actual match.
Oh look, the Cubs had just won the World Series, so there was 1 million people on the streets celebrating. It was like America's coolest city finally having peace with itself in a sporting context, and us rocking in with a party going, what's going on? All right.
Well, like, this is your opportunity as well to...
Just before Trump took power.
This is your opportunity to rub all our faces in it, because it wasn't included in the Irish sporting moment of the decade because it wasn't an Irish sporting event. But you were going to include Navy against Notre Dame.
Navy against Notre Dame. That was...
as one of your sporting moments of the decade.
Well, it was a pitch invasion by, like, 4,000 midshipmen in uniform, which, you know, I mean, they're probably just practicing for real life, but...
That seemed pretty incredible. Like, obviously, Irish people have had to go abroad to get a few brilliant sporting experiences sometimes, and this decade has been no different. Obviously, good stuff has happened on this island, but I'm sure, like, plenty of Liverpool fans, for example, some of their sporting moments will have been following that team during the Champions League last year. Perhaps they will look back on some of the moments that have happened already this season in time as some of the best times they've had as a sports fan, because it'll lead to a Premier League title, their first ever.
Going to the Tour de France, pretty amazing.
Going to the Tour de France, forgot about that. That was exceptional.
Yeah, like you kind of have to go to see it, to experience it, to realise why it's such an important cultural moment for an entire country. Like it's just eating and drinking. Mm-hmm. It's like tailgating American football style for about 7 hours in the sunshine. Everybody's absolutely off their heads drunk from like 9 in the morning.
Well, if the altitude doesn't help, I'd imagine, for a lot of those hardcore people.
I was at a seaside stage, and it's like, the cycling is great, but it's the pageantry and it's the long form of the event's existence, and it's the long form of the actual competition itself. Now, I mean, I suspect that as a sporting event, it kind of got ruined this decade.
Oh.
Certainly if you're French.
No question, like the whole lie was exposed this decade, which kind of feels like a lot longer than something that happened within the last 10 years. But was it 2012?
You're talking about Lance.
I'm talking about Lance Dawson.
Oh, no, I'm talking about like Team Sky.
Oh.
Kind of ruining the thing from...
I'm sure the Lance thing was ruined for most people well before this decade, but it was confirmed by the man himself over the last 10 years. But yeah, I guess there was Team Sky, people who would have, pinned their colours to the mast. I don't think those people who would have made the pilgrimage to France will have necessarily unpinned their colours at this point. Like
the other best stuff that I was at was Dublin Mayo, because of the tension, because of the sheer belief that the Mayo people had and the atmosphere that they created. Like, I know you hate their fans because
I like their fans.
Because you always have rows with them.
I think those days are over.
Well, okay, sorry. You certainly had a significant dislike for them for a long period of time, and now it's only their certain administrators who you have a beef with, and that beef seems to be real. But they actually are some of the best supporters in any sport that I've been at, because there's a wildness and there's the smell of want off everything, and the team played so well for so long this decade, and ultimately had all that heartbreak. That being there and being a witness to that, and then watching how Dublin could come up against them and outthink everything that happened. That was amazing.
It's mad. Like
2 on goals games, amazing. It's an amazing game.
It's outside. Like I personally think the 2017 final was the best of the lot, but you're kind of nitpicking there. It's like if you put all of the population of Mayo in Dublin, they wouldn't even be able to fill Croke Park twice. Like a population of 130,000 people, the only county outside of Dublin that you can't get a season ticket for. Like, the numbers don't lie. They're whatever you say about them, they're certainly not wanting for any bit of dedication. The ticket scramble we saw this year for the All-Ireland semi-final, when 82,000 people showed up to watch them get beaten by Dublin, like, that just kind of sums it up, and where that team is in the hearts of the population there. And that's not going to change anytime soon.
I wonder what the population of Mayo would be if everybody who has Mayo heritage was actually in Mayo.
Well, you see, okay, that's a good point. So,
is it double that? Like
you would say so. Like a country on a county on the west of Ireland.
Poor Nathan's kids are going to be forced to wear Mayo jerseys to school. Like,
well, no, didn't you hear? This was the year when Nathan actually bought his kids Dublin jerseys.
As is right and proper.
That's what happened in 2019. So 129,999 Mayo people is what I actually meant to say, rather than 130,000.
Yeah.
So people are hopping off the bandwagon, and Nathan is the first person off.
Well, there you go. So if you want to enter our best menswear competition today, send us using the hashtag OTB Decade, the best sporting event that you attended this decade. It doesn't have to be Irish. It can be anything around the world, and we'd love to hear your stories for it. So a bit late, we're going to get to the sports pages, going to talk about the sports moment of the decade. Going to chat about Liverpool and their trip to Qatar. Best of the Rugby World Cup coming your way at 8:05. Sports news, crappy quiz, sporting events, back to them for the top 20, top 10, top 2 as it is now. And then Philip Jordan's going to talk to us about the epidemic of hip injuries in the GAA. But it's time now for the papers.
OTB AM.
The Irish Times today, I'm going to go to their main home news section. This is page 4, because this isn't in the sports section today, it's actually in the news section. Department of Sport to meet IRFU for talks on future of Aviva Stadium. So this is Emma Malone and Jack Horgan-Jones have a line in this saying that apparently the IRFU are not interested in taking ownership or taking on the stake. That's an interesting thing that is being established at the moment. The Aviva Stadium director, Martin Murphy, believes that any attempt to sell the association's interest will be complicated. There would be charges over it, and the bank would have a say. It's not something you can really just put a for sale sign on, and it would be very hard to put a value on. And the Department of Sport, Tourism and Transport said that the stadium's business model only really works if the stadium is owned by the governing bodies. So there's loads of interesting detail in these. They've got 3 separate stories here. And I just wanted to talk about this one in particular. Ross defends revelation of FAI appeal for 18 million. So obviously last night the FAI issued a statement after Shane Ross breached the confidentiality of their meeting on Monday. Ross said, "I felt it was appropriate in the circumstances which we find ourselves to demonstrate seriousness by responding with the specific figure of 18 million in the interest of transparency. It was important to tell the truth, not evade. I'm working night and day with all the stakeholders in the interest of Irish football. This evening I met SIP2, the PFAI and other representatives of the grassroots in pursuit of a common goal. We'll be meeting UEFA in January with a shared objective." Now, what the FAI are saying is that the purpose of the meeting with the government on Monday was to expedite the completion of the refinancing deal, thus allowing the nominated independent directors to complete their own due diligence and take up the roles. So everybody seems to be putting a lot of store in the fact that these independent directors are going to ride to the rescue of the FAI. And in particular, this is what Shane Ross is saying, that there's no way that that organisation could ever get any state funding or be fit for purpose for taking state funding until we get the independent directors. The independent directors won't come on board until a debt refinancing deal has happened or they've got all of the facts established. And what the FA are now saying is that literally the minister whose job it is to try and fix this is getting in the way of it by blabbing about meetings that they're having to brief him to keep him up to date with the situation. And they're saying that what was said in the Oireachtas today will not help the recruitment process for these independent directors. One source said Mr. Ross was acting irresponsibly. His comments on a potential examinership or liquidation, and specifically the naming of the precise figures sought in financial support, are seen by FAI sources as particularly problematic. Nobody has any sympathy with the FAI and the old board and the problems that they got themselves into. There's none out there at the moment. But I have some sympathy with the current board who are in there, who are actually trying to get some stuff done. And Ross comes out and blabs away to the committee yesterday about stuff that had happened, and also doesn't actually seem to know any of the facts about what he's saying and the impact that this might have on the future of football in Ireland. When they were asked, and they were just like, oh yeah, the league will be gone as well. I mean, look, it might all go tits up and it might take the league with it. And sure, if that happens, then maybe, I don't know, would there be any international football again? That seemed to be they were working it out. They were working it out as they were saying it.
But like, it's not even the working it out as they're saying it. To me, it kind of strikes me as the sort of, well, it'll be beyond the bold step for you if you do anything worse. And this will be your punishment without having any substance for that punishment actually being a thing that really exists. Because clearly this guy and Brendan Griffin just didn't know yesterday about the potential implications for the FAI going down in terms of the League of Ireland. Like, it seems that Shane Ross thinks that this is just an open goal politically, and he is going to go and he's going to get down on all fours and nod the ball into the back of the net and do a few trick shots before actually blasting the ball to the back of the net. So he's dawdling, he's enjoying the limelight around this, and he's trying to twist the knife as much as possible in an organisation that badly needs its help, and specifically this week, his confidentiality in terms of the actual money that they need. Like, this is not a moment for political point scoring. This is a moment for actual help that is required for the FAI. Like, who are these 4 independent directors that are going to come in? If he had any idea who they are, I'm sure they're probably turning on their heels at the moment after the 18 million figure was released yesterday. Who released that figure? Shane Ross. Like, it's this thing.
Well, look, I'm sure that they would have known that you would need to know those figures if you're coming in, right? And that's totally fair. If you are going to be on the board, that you would have access to the same information that everybody else has and the full details of the liabilities. But, like, you know, there's a way of doing this and there's a way of managing this which makes it look like you at least know what you're supposed to be doing. And in this instance, when they're talking about the league going tits up, there was no regard for that. There was no sense that this might be damaging to the league, that this might be in any way. So if you're a sponsor thinking of getting involved with the League of Ireland club, at the moment, are you likely to say, yeah, I'm definitely going to get involved, or am I going to wait and see? And that might be the difference between the club being able to afford to do something that it needs to do, or to buy a player, or to sign somebody, or to pay wages. Like, it's absolutely idiotic, the level of complacency that is on display from the minister whose job it is to try and fix this. There's another bit here where at least the PFAI and other people in this are actually doing some work, asking some questions and trying to find some stuff out. This is again in Emmett Malone and Jack Horgan-Jones' piece in the Irish Times this morning. The PFAI, however, requested that the international union to which it's affiliated, FIFPro, seek clarification from UEFA, which said that while the situation is hypothetical and unprecedented, as no national association has ever failed, it didn't feel the consequences necessarily needed to be so stark, i.e. there's a suggestion that we'd be no international football for 3 years at any level, no grassroots funding from UEFA or FIFA. This is if the whole organisation goes tits up. But apparently, under UEFA statutes, any national association that is dissolved does automatically have its membership terminated. The suggestion on Tuesday evening was that the expectation would be a new body would be established to oversee the administration of the game, and that this could then apply for membership of the federation. Like, you would have to say that's a fairly obvious thing, right? Don't go into liquidation, go into examinership, set up a new organisation, come out of as much of your debts as you possibly can, hopefully agreeing to pay off and doing a deal for them, rebrand the organisation, spin off the league. Like, the league wasn't always part of the FAI, and so let it have a breakaway, let it have its own structure, let it have its own function. Like, there's loads of solutions to this. If people are interested in talking about solutions as opposed to, well, maybe there'll be no international football team anymore. Just the senior international team? No, all teams. Yeah, like, Brendan Griffin didn't seem to have a grip on this either.
No, he said that the March fixtures may not go ahead if this thing goes tits up. Like, there are more international teams than the Republic of Ireland men's international team. And I think his comments yesterday kind of sum up the sort of casual nature of how Irish football is viewed. The problem here, though, is that it's fine for you to have a casual view of how football is run in this country, except if you're, a junior minister for sport, and clearly just doesn't have an iota of a clue of how things are actually run and what the implications might be. Like, you have to say that Jonathan O'Brien is the one person who's come out of 2019 in football politics actually with his reputation enhanced, and once again yesterday kind of bringing some semblance of sense to proceedings, even though his head was in his hands at times, just looking at what was developing around him. And like, he just delivered that brilliant line saying, "We are not the problem child. The FAI were the absentee frauders who didn't give an absolute bollocks about the League of Ireland." And not everything can be reduced down to a soundbite, but that was certainly the best thing that was said, or the thing that had most impact from yesterday's dealings.
Chris Shields on Twitter retweeted this last night. We've got a picture of it there. In fairness, the FAI are only asking for like 18 printers. Dundalk's Chris Shields. Like, there is a point to this, right? Yes. There is a point to this. It's like this organisation, the Houses of the Oireachtas, like, not a brilliantly run organisation. Now, the other side of that is even when that shambolic organisation over there is looking down its nose like, yeah, things have got pretty bad, so. But Jesus, yeah. Look, Shane Ross and Brendan Griffin do not come out of this with their reputations enhanced at all. And I hope that this isn't just an opportunity to beat football, because like all sports organisations have their own issues, as we're seeing with Cork GAA at the moment too.
Yeah, for sure. The Irish Independent, likewise, on the front and the back pages this morning, Dan MacDonald, State considers buying FAI stake in the Aviva Stadium. So the government taking over the FAI stake in the Aviva has emerged as the most likely short-term solution to the troubled association's cash crisis. So officials from the Department of Sport will today meet the IRFU to discuss what the FAI's grave financial position means for the status of the venue jointly owned by the two sporting bodies. So the FAI owes €29 million on the Aviva as part of overall liabilities, which exceed €60 million. And then on the back page, Dan is going with Ross Roseback on bleak League of Ireland claim. Ex-Ireland coaches join All Blacks, because you've got Plumtree there, as well as Greg Feek, who are going to join Ian Foster with New Zealand.
Yeah, so that's the exact coaching ticket that one of the papers, I don't want to get it wrong, so one of the New Zealand papers had reported that coaching ticket plus Joe Schmidt was going to be taken over. So
it'd be Foster, Plumtree, Schmidt under Ian Foster.
Feek,
sorry.
So Foster's the boss.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that was what had been mooted, and Joe Schmidt was in with us that day, and he said, no, that's not going to happen.
Right, so it'll be interesting to see if there's still a way in over the...
Well, I think they did say that there's another coach will be appointed, so maybe he didn't get Joe Schmidt and he does want to have one more coach, or maybe he's keeping it open.
The other story on the back page is Arteta to be Gunners head coach by the weekend, and you've got Manchester rivals semi-showdown there with them celebrating in last night's win over Colchester. Just inside then, just more on the Aviva Stadium. Rory O'Connor's done an analysis piece. IRFU's Aviva, house is in order. They are unlikely to risk it all to bail out the FAI. So the RFU's annual council meeting takes place today. So last July it was revealed that a €28 million surplus and revenues of €87.5 million at the end of a year of mixed results off the pitch, but consistent performance off it, were announced. So from the outside, the timing of having the €28 million surplus couldn't be better, because the FAI's outstanding debts in the Aviva Stadium stands at €29 million. So there's a nice coincidence there, but they're not going to, you'd imagine, take them up on any offer that might be coming their way, because why would the IRFU want to get into that themselves? Because
they would own the stadium outright then.
It's true, but...
You can do an awful lot when you have full control of something. Now, look, they're the majority shareholder anyway, so it would seem like it's unnecessary. Ultimately, whoever buys the minority shareholding isn't going to be able to do that much with the stadium, because you're the minority partner. They'll just stop everything that they don't like. Having said that, if you own the whole thing outright and you're getting it at what would appear to be quite a knockdown price, because you're just maybe taking over just the debt, who knows, then I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see the RFU at the end owning the stadium outright.
Right. It's not something that I'd realistically thought of. Like, it is kind of the most obvious thing in terms of a potential buyer, but I really just hadn't seen any suggestion that they were actually going to do this. Like, you think about it, and if the RFU were smart, they could do all the football-related activities that the FAI have already done with the stadium, but just under their entire control, basically. So
you mean like the summer friendlies and stuff?
Or you could still have your Euro 2020 games at the Aviva Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
As an RFU stadium, and that would only fill the coffers up a little bit more, you'd imagine.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, stadiums, when they're run as well as the Aviva's run, are profit machines. Right, so the Examiner this morning, Bobby on the beat, Bobby Firmino fires Liverpool to Club World Cup final, makeshift Liverpool team. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Michael Moynihan, the pressing financial questions Cork GAA must answer, and there was a bit of grandstanding from the usual quarters in GAA land about, Jesus, aren't we great lads now in the FAI, look at what's going on. And then Cork GAA, the audit subcommittee came out and were like, hang on a second here, we don't agree with the figures that were released last week at the annual convention. So Michael Moynihan's been all over this story in the Examiner. The executive of the Cork County Board met yesterday evening, and the story in these pages earlier in the week surely figured in their discussions. A quick recap. The Irish Examiner revealed on December the 8th the board's deficit was 558 grand. When that went and hit the papers, what happened at that point was the board appointed audit and risk subcommittee sent a report saying, it was the other way around, on the 4th of December, saying that you needed to tell everybody that the actual deficit is 2.4 million, so not the 560 grand as was reported, essentially 4.5 times more. So Michael Moynihan's just very nakedly writing down the questions that Cork GAA has to answer. Why did the executive ignore the advice of its own audit and risk committee? Why was the report not issued to all members of the executive on such a sensitive topic? Because the second letter from the Audit and Risk Subcommittee refers to the first report and says, we now understand not all of you received it. The deficit of 558 grand was described in these pages by the CEO, Secretary Kevin O'Donovan, as a wake-up call. Crisis is a dangerous word, he said, but we can't have another year like this. Yes, our reserves are secure, but it's not sustainable to continue with losses indefinitely. This is a wake-up call for Cork GAA. What is the situation, asks Michael Moynihan, now in relation to those reserves? Will they have to be used up to make the 2.4 million? And there's several other questions there as well, but that is not a great situation.
No, that is not good news whatsoever, especially when the quotes are so, I don't know, sobering when it comes to the smaller amount of money. And if that is actually, as you say, 4.5 times what we actually thought they were, or the money that is owed, that's not great. That is making things a lot worse. That's a big story, and that's one that you'd imagine will develop as the new year gets underway as well. Back page of the Herald is Liverpool on top of the world. Reds to face Brazil's Flamengo in club finals as Firmino fires to beat Monterrey 2-1 yesterday in Qatar. City furious over Arteta Arsenal deal. So Arsenal obviously hoping to install Mikel Arteta before the weekend. City not prepared to stand in the way of Arteta, but they have been enraged by Arsenal's conduct as they were yet to receive an approach ahead of last night's meeting with Oxford United in the League Cup. That's how you do it. You just show up to his house, have a covert conversation, but don't make any communication with his employer, even if they've seen the photographs.
Why? So that's the issue, is it?
Yes. That's something that's pissed them off a good bit, that they dare speak to their man behind their back.
City have been bemused, it says in Telegraph, by Arsenal's conduct on Sunday when none of the club's executives discussed Arteta's future.
And that's it as well.
As the two sides met at the Emirates Stadium.
Sat right beside each other.
Have you got any news? Anything strange? What are you doing for Christmas? Oh, when do you finish up? That kind of stuff.
Canapé. Back page of the Sun is taking the mick. The same story. City rage at Arteta chase. Carlo's a toffee on Monday. Carlo Ancelotti has agreed to become the Everton manager.
I mean, bear in mind, when we Kenny Cunningham here last week, he was like, no way. It's an outrageous get from Everton, right?
Well, as I was saying yesterday...
You think he's finished?
There's
it's very Everton-like.
It's a possibility that they've just made...
But you're going to be cheering against him now, just so you'll be proved right. It's a terrible situation you find yourself in. Wishing Carlo Ancelotti bad just so you can be proved right.
It's interesting. It's like you look at what Everton have done in recent transfer windows, and you look at what, say, Leicester City has done in recent transfer windows, and the stark contrast between them. And what sums Everton up is that they go for the most obvious good thing that they can get. Not the most obvious great thing that they can get, the most obvious good thing they can get. We're talking Alex Iwobi, we're talking Theo Walcott, we're talking, say, Richarlison, and they don't turn them into great players because we already know what they are. They're good players and they will stay good. I've got a sense that they've gone for a manager who has gone from great to good, and that manager will stay good at Everton, and they might finish 7th.
I mean, would Everton take 7th? They'd be in big games.
They'd finish ahead of Arsenal probably if they finish 7th.
They'd have to have some big wins. They would be respectable against the good teams. Is that all they want?
Maybe. Like, I don't think that their spending in recent times has ever suggested that they have the ambition to crack the top 4, for example. But like, that is easier said than done. It's not necessarily a criticism that a team who haven't been in the top 4 can't crack the top 4, because it's hard to get in there. A team who can't get into the top 6, really. Back page of The Guardian is waiting game. Arteta holds final talks with Arsenal after a City stand aside, and eyes still on the prize. Firmino wheels away in celebration after scoring the injury time goal that sealed Liverpool's place in the final of the Club World Cup in Qatar.
Michael Clifford has picked his top 10 Gaelic footballers of the decade in the Mail. Have you seen it?
I have.
You have? Actually, you know them. Right.
Well, everybody at home hasn't seen them.
Say that again, Tommy. Right. Did you is that what? Go on. What did you notice?
Well, there was no Kerry players in it, obviously. But I didn't notice that. It was mentioned to me in the office today.
No Kerry football.
As if it was
top 10 of the last decade.
As if it was some sort of bait or something.
And who's missing out?
I don't know. You tell me.
Gooch. Does he make it? Because
Clifford.
The decade doesn't work. Clifford too late.
Whereas, in fairness, Conor Callaghan doesn't make it. Paul Mannion doesn't make it. I see Keith Higgins and Lee Keegan both make the list. So 2 Mayo men. The rest are dubs, except for Michael Murphy and Conor McManus.
Yeah.
So 6 dubs. Like it's
Kieran Kilkenny, number 10. Number 9, Paul Flynn. Number 8, Keith Higgins. Number 7, Bernard Brogan. Number 6, Lee Keegan. Number 5, Conor McManus. Number 4, Jack McCaffrey. Number 3, Brian Fenton. Number 2, Michael Murphy. And number 1, Stephen Cluxton.
It's a strong list. It's hard to make too many arguments against it. I'm not sure that I have Keith Higgins in the top 10 footballers of the entire decade.
Who are you putting in? What Kerry man are you shoehorning in?
I'm not sure. Like, to be fair, it's actually hard to make an argument that a Kerry man individually had a better decade than Keith Higgins because of the longevity of the man, and from start to finish, he was the best cornerback in Ireland. So the more I actually think about it out loud here, the more I'm thinking to myself, well, actually, Keith Higgins probably deserves to be there. He is the only kind of...
David Moran get a look in?
Fullback, possibly. Like, he'd certainly be one of the top 3 contenders. Like, I would always have Gooch in and around these lists for this decade. I think he gets underappreciated for what he did in the last 10 years. But
when did he retire from Intercounty?
After the 2016 season. I'll accept that 2015 he wasn't great in 15 and 16, but that was after his cruciate in 2014 when he was missing for the All-Ireland win. So really you're judging him on 10, 11, 12, 13. Which, I'm struggling here to make an argument for them. In fairness, it's a good list. It's fairly watertight. Like, I would always have Fenton and McCaffrey ahead of Stephen Cluxton on these lists. I just think they're... I find them more awesome players, and the same goes for Michael Murphy, so I would have Cluxton in around number 4 instead of number 1.
So who's your number 1?
McCaffrey.
Right.
McCaffrey, then Fenton, then Murphy, and then Cluxton number 4.
McCaffrey's a year out, and then the cruciate as well.
And then, it's mad to think that he's managed to already install himself as one of the best halfbacks we've ever seen.
Paul Flynn, the first player since Jack O'Shea and Pádraig O'Shea to win 4 consecutive All-Stars in 2014. So whatever about your recency bias, like, that's a level of excellence that few people get to.
I don't think nobody's arguing against Brian Fenton being an all-time great, to be honest.
No, or Paul Flynn.
Paul Flynn, sorry.
Yeah, that's Paul Flynn.
Fenton, sorry, right.
State support, government could buy FAI stadium stake as Philip Quinn's lead on the back of the Daily Mail as well. And blessed relief, sub Firmino strikes late to calm Klopp and put Reds in final. And Rugby Chiefs won't take on FAI's Aviva debt. That's the story at the minute. The IRFU are poised to shoot down any possibility of taking a full stake in the Aviva Stadium in response to the FAI's dire financial situation. I mean, that's what I would say, isn't it? That's what you would say? No, we're not interested. How much is it? How much is it? No, too much. How much is it? Oh, a bit better. Still too much. Wouldn't you? You wouldn't say, yeah, we're going to bail them out straight off, would you?
Well, absolutely not.
No.
And if they're going... See, this is the thing. If they've gone cap in hand to the government and you know exactly how much they've asked the government for, then that probably strengthens your negotiating position if you're the IRFU. So thank you very much, Shane Ross, for giving us a dig out on the negotiating table. It is Shane Ross on the back of the Irish Daily Star. Football for sale, reads the headline. FAI get all clear to sell Aviva stake. Cook is angered by leak. Meanwhile, naturally, FAI chief Paul Cook accused Sports Minister Shane Ross of breaching confidentiality at yesterday's Oireachtas Sports Committee hearing in Leinster House. United earned derby date with City, and Boss's firm favourite. That's Firmino scoring the winner against Monterrey yesterday.
Front cover of the Mirror this morning, a 62 million own goal with the FAI's crest broken over a picture of their offices in Sports Campus.
I should have showed actually the front page of the Star as well. Come on, you boys in red is there, striking front page. Should have actually gone through all the front pages, to be honest.
The Ireland soccer team is facing being booted out of Euro 2020 if the basket case FAI goes under. Which, I mean, it isn't, is the thing, right? But that's what everybody's allowed to say, because that's what Shane Ross said yesterday. He's the minister and he's supposed to know better than this. But really, there are a million different ways that wouldn't happen if anybody who was competent was actually leading this now and saying, we're getting our hands around this and we're going to rescue football and here's what we're going to do, instead of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why aren't you fixing this? It's like, step up, take charge, take responsibility, do the job you're paid for. The Irish Daily Mirror this morning, Payne Ross, tab of the morning to you. FAI slams Sports Minister as they accuse him of wrecking efforts to rescue association. This is Paula Hare's piece. FAI chiefs waged war on Shane Ross last night, accusing the Sports Minister of hampering efforts to address their crippling debt. As I said, I think I have a bit of sympathy for them when it comes to this, because that does seem to be the case. That what is he actively doing? He's meeting people, and he's going to meet UEFA.
He's telling a lot of people off.
Yeah,
publicly.
And he's going to have his picture in the papers, and he's going to hum and huff and puff in front of the Oireachtas committee. But what's he actually doing?
All we need now is just like a Christmas Eve photo of Shane Ross outside government buildings, saying that he's working hard on the FAI on Christmas Eve.
The most likely picture of Shane Ross on Christmas Eve is some giant comedy check with him handing it to the FAI with a red Santa hat. That's like, I've fixed the problem here somehow. That's which won't be even actively be true.
And back page of the Times is Firmino to the rescue. Last minute winner takes Liverpool into Club World Cup final, and Arsenal set to name Arteta as manager.
So the Racing Post have named their 20 most influential figures of the decade. Number one is Sir Anthony McCoy, it says. So Tony McCoy is number one. Sheikh Mohammed, number two. John Magner, number three. Frankie Dettori, number four. Khalid Abdullah, number five. The Queen, number six.
She was fairly influential, in fairness. Let's she's more influential than URI anyway. She maybe not deserves to be on this list, but
it's a bit lickspittly, isn't it? It's a bit lickspittly, naming the Queen number six.
She does have like a race named after her.
The Queen is often bracketed alongside Frankie Dettori as racing's most significant ambassador, but at some point, racing will be denied her. Because she's going to die. I mean, is that what it is? The fact people wonder what comes next speaks volumes for her power and patronage. I didn't realise that the Telegraph had bought the Racing Post, but apparently they have.
Well, like, the thing is, she has had a very
long life.
Long life. She's survived the whole.
Not watch The Crown, Tommy. No. Apparently, it makes it fall in love with the royal family.
She survived the WhatsApp group led by Gibbo and Ricey a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure that was something that swung the decision to include her in the Racing Post list.
Something happened, did it?
Yeah, you obviously remember when she was trending on the Sunday night.
Yeah.
Gibbo and Ricey.
Get your clean cacks on for you're going to be away for 3 days.
Yeah. So, if she's managed to...
That's why they're all like, better stick her on any of these lists just in case we have it written, cut and paste, slash it up to number one.
Yeah. I wonder, does that guy still have his khaki pants packed in his bag and is just waiting outside, not falling asleep?
With the hat. What are those hats called? All right, 7:45 this morning, time for the final of the most memorable Irish sports moment of the decade.
Has it lost the ball? It is a goal! Robbie Brady!
Voting is live. It's fairly obvious. We're down to the last two. It is, here we go. Katie Taylor's Gold, Shane Lowry's Open. There are 11 hours left. We're down to the final two. Two moments from opposite ends of the decade. 2012, Katie Taylor's Gold in London, Shane Lowry's Open in Portrush, which is obviously in Ireland, Eoin. It's in Ireland.
I know that.
We didn't clip that bit, did we? Where Eoin was like, he won the Open abroad.
I didn't say he won the Open abroad. I didn't say it like that.
What did you say?
I said that he won a foreign sports tournament or something like that. It was okay. It was a slip, but like I was at home watching it on television. Like there was this scene in the Croke Park Hotel Sunday when he wins it and everybody's cheering. Like it feels like pictures from abroad are being beamed into Ireland. That's what it felt like. You know, like we're watching Robbie Brady. But it was, like, it obviously wasn't. I forgot the golf course on which he won for a moment.
Right.
I knew he won it in Ireland because it made it more special.
Did you? You didn't. Right.
Literally did.
We're back talking football in Liverpool at the Club World Cup with Gareth Roberts in Qatar after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Off the Ball 2019 IMRO Radio Awards Sports Programme of the Year.
Salah takes the shot. Oh, Mo Salah with one of the goals of the season.
Who will see their dreams turn into reality? Whose names will be etched in history forever?
Offtheball.com, best online publisher at the 2019 Spider Awards.
A big breaking story on offtheball.com for you this morning. We have the very latest on the Mayo leaks. We now know what went on in that secretive Mayo County Board meeting.
2019 Irish Sponsorship Awards Best Radio Sponsorship, OTB Super Value GAA Roadshows.
Well, when she comes back, get your arse back here, he said. Star is out sitting on the swing and Darren O'Sullivan is pushing him.
OTB Sports Radio, live online 24/7 on the Go Loud app.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
Saturdays. A completely blank canvas for you to do with as you please.
Can you collect my dress from dry cleaners? Sarah and Steve over tonight. Get wine. Also, downstairs bathroom needs attention.
They fill up fast Saturdays. But make sure you fill your boots with Paddy Power's Saturday Power Price, a super enhancement on a specific football treble every Saturday. Paddy Power sponsors the football show on Off the Ball. T's and C's apply. 18 plus on Louis.net.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Yeah, you're very welcome back. We want you to keep your comments rolling in using the hashtag OTBDecades because that's where you can enter our competition today. Courtesy of Best Menswear, we've got a €150 made-to-measure shirt from Best Menswear to give away. To enter the draw, all we're asking you to do is tell us about the best sporting event that you attended this decade. Did you get one that you attended? Is your answer the 2011 All-Ireland final? It's funny you're picking a...
Yeah, it's probably the most incredible thing I've seen this decade, yeah.
For me, watching the Liverpool win the Champions League in Madrid, as I had huge disappointment in Kiev the year before after an epic journey to get there, says Ray Malone. Not the greatest sports event I've ever been at, but Madrid is an amazing city. I was at that game.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you were at the Champions League final.
It was a weird situation because you never felt like Spurs were going to get back into it, and the goal happened so early, and Liverpool kind of played within themselves. And I think it's like under-remembered, under-talked about. It was the first game in 3 weeks of both teams, so they weren't fully fit, they weren't as sharp as they should have been.
That was definitely the case. Definitely felt that it was kind of played at half pace, the game at times, and it was underwhelming because of the early goal, and because of that you didn't actually have the tension ratcheting up that you would have had with a 0-0. I don't know, like what's it like does the kind of corporateness of it all take away from the authentic sporting spectacle? No, not at all. Two English teams was great. How did you manage to get a ticket to the Champions League final? I know. What are you going to do? You know a guy who knows a guy. It's fair play to you.
How did you get your ticket in the Hill, Owen?
Because I got it through my club.
Do you get tickets to the Hill, do you?
Yeah, the All-Ireland final. The Dubs don't take everything for the All-Ireland. So well done. Is that your greatest your own personal achievement of the decade, is getting a ticket to the Champions League final? No, I mean I got a ticket to the game in Chicago. You did actually, yeah. That's good. That was a very, very good one to get. Yeah. Wish I got a ticket to that game. No, I don't know. I would like from the outside looking in, it always kind of seems like this incredible pageant, the Champions League final. But I would just like to be there and see exactly what it's like inside the ground or outside the ground, perhaps even more importantly. Like tons of Liverpool fans have travelled over without a ticket, and like Madrid was, I understand, just like thronged with people. People who had just no intention of even trying to get a ticket because it was going to be impossible to do so. Just buy a plane ticket now to go to Istanbul and prepare to go, irrespective of who's there. Yeah, it's a good shout. Have you? You didn't go to any of the World Cups this decade, did you?
2010 was
South Africa.
2014 was
Brazil.
Didn't go to that.
Russia.
No.
It really, like in fairness to them, it really truly was a decade of World Cups, like three different continents, three different places that they hadn't really brought up before, except for Brazil. I don't know, like if I could have picked one of them, the one at the Maracanã was supposedly just this beautiful experience for everybody there. I think John Duggan says he got a ticket outside the stadium, or at least tried to get a ticket outside the stadium. So, that's probably the one, the coulda, shoulda, woulda sporting moment for me of the decade.
Cork versus Clare All-Ireland Hurling Final 2013. The drawn game or the replay, don't know. Robert O'Mahony says that was his.
Yeah, it's like unbelievable. Either game, they're kind of not as up there in terms of it being as impactful as say an All-Ireland final, but the hurling semi-finals weekend over the last 2 years has turned into the must-get ticket in town for events that are actually accessible. For you, if you want to go to this event, you can easily go because tickets are gettable.
Yeah.
A hurling semi-final weekend has turned into the must-go weekend at this moment.
They've been sensational games both years, all right. Now, let's go to Qatar. Gareth Roberts of the Anfield Wrap is with us this morning as he's following Liverpool to the FIFA Club World Cup finals. It's a bit of a mouthful. Gareth, they left it late yesterday. It's kind of the pattern of the season. It's good to see that it's not just a run-of-the-mill English Premier League game that they take that attitude into. It's also a World Cup semi-final.
Yeah, and it's a good habit to have. I think it's the third injury time winner this season. It's the sixth time this year. And it's what good sides do, isn't it? I mean, you know, I'm a Liverpool fan. I've watched Liverpool for a long, long time. And as a Liverpool fan, it was so annoying to watch Manchester United win so many games under Alex Ferguson in Fergie time, as we then called it. You know, Liverpool have got their own habit now. We've got Kloppage time, and we scored another one in Kloppage time last night and won. So, yeah, it's a fantastic habit to have, and long may it continue.
The weird thing about this is that even when the team is playing badly, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, partly because everybody talks about it. It gets into the opposition minds. Maybe that was not the case against Monterrey last night, but certainly watching back at home, the Premier League is going to be going, all right, they can do this almost. Yeah. And it's not necessarily anything to do with the quality of football that they're playing at that specific moment.
Yeah, it becomes a psychological thing on both sides, I think. So for Liverpool, they continue to believe that they can score. They keep going to the very end. We've seen that over and over again. The mindset collectively across the squad is brilliant. We've seen the kids do it as well. When they played against Arsenal in the League Cup, you know, they managed to claw it back and then ended up winning on a penalty shootout. It seems that it's ingrained right through the club, so it works for Liverpool. And as you say, it works against opponents, because I think if you're up against Liverpool, you know that, you've done your research, you know that they're strong in the final 10, 15 minutes and into injury time. It will start to creep into your mind as well. And so both ways, it's a win for Liverpool. I think Liverpool are one of the fittest sides around as well. I think that's worth saying. I think the medical staff they've got, the work they've done behind the scenes on getting the players to the very fittest they can be is very, very clear, because you see, you know, various sides tired. I thought Monterrey were among them last night. Liverpool started to get on top towards the end when they brought substitutes on. There was an up in the pace, which Monterrey didn't seem to be able to deal with. And then ultimately they've won another game. And as I say, it's a brilliant habit to have, and it's likely going to lead to silverware this season, I would say.
The big question is, can Virgil van Dijk get back in the team and displace Jordan Henderson at the heart of the defence?
Yeah, that was bizarre seeing Jordan there, and I was really worried about it, to be honest, because, you know, we've never seen him there before. He has jobbed at right back a couple of times for Liverpool, but seeing him at centre-half was a little bit of a worry, because you thought it's going to take something away from the defence, obviously, not having Van Dijk there. It's going to take something away from the midfield, not having Henderson there. But I thought he did well. He did as well as can be expected. Not Virgil standards, but who is Virgil standards? I mean, he's one of the best centre-halves, if not the best in the world right now. So, of course, you're going to miss him. But I thought Henderson did really, really well. He's an organiser. He's a captain. He's a captain for a reason. And he did a great job there, I thought.
It's funny how the conversation about not leaving his second team behind to play the game against Villa, and actually the majority of those players who might have started, who might be considered non-starters at the moment, get the start in the game against Monterrey. So Lallana starts, Shaqiri starts, Origi starts. Even Oxlade-Chamberlain isn't really a starter just at the moment. Hugely important for those players to feel like they're being legitimately given an opportunity to show what they can do. And here it is, a World Club semi-final. You know, it's an amazing piece of man management to be able to get that team out, shoehorn a midfielder into centre-back and come through it.
Absolutely. And we've seen Klopp do this over and over. I mean, we've seen Fabinho at centre-half, we've seen Wijnaldum at centre-half away at Brighton. And so it's something that he does. I think what he does with the mindset, which I think is really interesting, is I think in any other situation or in this situation even, you would hear a lot of moaning, a lot of griping from managers, a lot of saying, well, we've got all these injuries and we're having to play a midfielder at centre-half. Klopp doesn't do that. And I think, the players don't do that either. And that's the real difference I noticed from the past. That would be pitched as being a problem and everyone would go to the match going, we've got a problem. Instead, now we'll be all right because we've been all right so many times before. And as you say, to get something out of all the players on the periphery over and over again. I mean, Keita as well is another one where, he scored 3 goals now. And I think in a very short space of time, obviously scores against Bournemouth as well. And he now is getting towards the player we thought we were signing. And if we're getting him at this stage of the season, when we're going for so many trophies, when there's so many games, when it's so intense, if he can come in and be a match winner for Liverpool, score goals, then again, that's brilliant time. And it was good to see Mane, Firmino, Trent Alexander-Arnold get some rest in their legs because they're going to need to go again, obviously, on Saturday. And then the big worry for us, to be honest with you, is just how will this trip affect Liverpool when they return to play in the Premier League? Obviously, Leicester are flying. We've got Leicester on Boxing Day away, a really tough game. But you do feel that if we can go there and get any kind of result, it's going to make it very, very hard for anyone to catch Liverpool in the Premier League.
Yeah, look, at this stage, it's kind of jet lag and potentially if they were to lose the World Cup final, if there was any kind of hangover about that. What level of confidence do you have, though, that that's not going to happen, that they're going to win on Saturday?
Well, Flamengo, got some good players, haven't they? They're a good standard of football. I don't think they played particularly well in the first half in their game, which is interesting because it's almost that every side seems to have had that. You mentioned jet lag, and I wonder about it myself because, I'm certainly feeling it, and all I'm doing is watching and talking about football. I'm not running around playing it. I think it does affect you, obviously, going into different time zones and things like that is difficult, no matter how much you're looked after and no matter how much you're pampered. I think the pitch as well has been quite heavy with the rain and a lot of football played on it. So every side, it seems, has struggled to find its rhythm. So it'd be interesting, I think, if, the Flamengo that we've seen in the first half, if Liverpool are facing that and it's the Liverpool at its best, I don't see any problems. They played a lot better in the second half. So it's all about what levels, the two sides can reach. Can they be the best versions of themselves? If Liverpool are the best versions of themselves, fully expect them to win. If there's any kind of drop-off, I don't think we can underestimate the Brazilians. They really want to win it. They're singing lots of songs around the city about when they beat Liverpool in 1981. They want to do the same in 2019. So Liverpool have got to make sure that that's not the case.
What's your view on the Takumi Minamino signing? Because on the face of it seems like a no-brainer financially. They're going to get him for £7.25 million. No matter what happens, they're going to probably get a markup on that eventually. But on a footballing level, does this suggest that perhaps Klopp just needed just a little bit extra when it came to the engine, when it came to perhaps a few options behind the attack for Liverpool?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well that he thought maybe Brewster was going to offer a little bit more this season. He talked him up pre-season, and then when he's had a chance, I don't think he's fully taken it. And now there's talk that Ryan Brewster will go out on loan. There's talk of Curtis Jones going out on loan as well, who I like and I think has done well. But this player's a step up from that. He's someone who's playing in the Champions League. He performed really well against Liverpool, and he can play in a variety of positions. He works really hard as well. He's creative. He can score goals. Very much feels like a Jurgen Klopp player. And we were all talking when we saw him play against Liverpool about, you wouldn't mind seeing him for Liverpool. It seems that the players were saying the same thing, and it seems that Klopp was already looking at him, and a deal was taking place behind the scenes, and it looks like it's pretty much done. So I think it would be really, it's just been confirmed. Oh, brilliant news. Well, I think as well that, with that, the one thing for me that's always been a problem for Klopp and Liverpool in recent times is how do you rest Bobby Firmino? Because there's no one else really in the squad that can do his type of role, his type of job. It always felt that when you were putting, Origi in there, you were shoehorning him in. It didn't. Liverpool didn't feel quite the same. I think with this player, when he comes in, he can potentially do the Bobby Firmino role and give Bobby Firmino a rest. So for that reason alone, it seems like really smart business.
Can we talk a little bit about what it's actually like out on the ground in Qatar? Obviously, so much talk about sports washing and the difficulties around human rights for the people who've been building the stadiums, the people who are actually working there around the World Cup. What's it actually like on the ground? What's your experience there?
I mean, we haven't been here a very long time. We got here first thing yesterday morning. The first thing we did when we got here was have a sleep because, you know, it's really difficult to sleep on long-haul flights, certainly is for me anyway. So we had a sleep. Then we went to the fan zone, which will obviously be used for the World Cup. And, you know, the facilities were excellent. It looked brilliant, really, really well organised. And then there were shuttle buses that took you to the stadium. Around the stadium, I've got to be honest, I didn't think the organisation of the crowd was the best. There was a bit of a struggle getting in time for kick-off. It didn't really feel like they were ready for that, and it feels like that's something they've got to work on. In terms of just seeing, you know, the place itself, obviously, you know, money is everywhere. You can see that with the skyscrapers and the Lamborghinis that are going around the place. We did come through an area in the taxi from the airport, which was clearly where, you know, the likes of the people who are working on the stadiums live, and you know, the contrast is really, really harsh. But I mean, that's not exclusive to Doha. That's something you see all over the world. You can see that in London. You can see that in Liverpool. You know, poor areas right next to opulent areas is not a new thing. So our sense of what it's like here, you know, is maybe not the greatest just yet because we're only really on sort of day one. But certainly it's there. You can see the contrast. You can see the different living conditions. And obviously we've all read the stories which leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth about how they've been treating those workers.
Yeah, on a personal level, did you think long and hard about going, or did you go, look, I'm going as a football fan and I need to see this and I'm going to report back? And what was that decision-making process?
No, we had a good think about it at the Anfield wrap about whether we should go and what we should do about it. And we put some of our own content out about, you know, how we made the decision and how hard it was to make the decision. Ultimately, we felt that, you know, Liverpool are out here. Liverpool have made their feelings as a club known as well, which I thought was a good thing. They couldn't. I mean, some clubs would maybe not get involved in it. Liverpool have got involved. Liverpool have said it's not acceptable and they want investigations, and they put their weight behind those kind of things. You know, I would echo that really as well. I think what was good as well was that, you know, for supporters coming over here, you know, LGBT supporters who maybe were a little bit concerned, you know, Liverpool did the homework, made sure that they came out here, made sure that, you know, their safety would be guaranteed and that there wouldn't be a problem for those supporters. Some of those supporters are out here and are doing just fine, and long may that be the case. I think that was really good work by Liverpool to make sure that was the case. And ultimately as well, you know, we were talking about it amongst our friends last night, and we were saying, well, you know, this country wants the World Cup, it wants the sporting events, it wants Western people living and working here. So ultimately, you know, it's gonna have to shift on some of its cultural positioning, and hopefully that will be the case. I think there is some good work being done around the workers, but maybe not enough, because, you know, you're still reading pretty grim stuff about, you know, people dying and then it being sort of covered up, and they're not giving money to the families and things like that. You know, no one with a heart can say that that's a good thing. So yeah, it was a dilemma, but ultimately, you know, what we do at the Anfield wrap, we follow Liverpool everywhere, and we felt that we had to follow them here too.
Do you think it's going to be ready for the World Cup? Do you think this is an environment where you could have, heaven knows how many different teams actually playing in a World Cup in Qatar?
I mean, they've still got a couple of years to sort things out, haven't they? And it feels like they are really committed to doing that. I mean, we've had various people speaking to us sort of off the record already about our experience. So the stuff I just relayed to you about getting into the ground, that's already being relayed to an organiser who will take that information away. So, for instance, they were saying, well, maybe we let you all stay in the fan park a little bit too long. Maybe we should have herded you out and got you on buses earlier, and, you know, just got people in and around the ground and going through the turnstiles a little bit earlier than was the case. So, you know, if that continues to be the case, if they continue to invest the money that they are in knowledge and expertise, I'm sure it will be fine. There does seem a real determination here to make it work, and it would be a big embarrassment to them if it didn't. So I'm pretty confident it will be fine, yeah.
Football fans obviously like to booze when they're at matches. What's the situation?
In the fan park, you could drink and it was absolutely fine. In the hotels, you can drink too, and it's absolutely fine. It's not the cheapest. In the fan park, though, they have lowered the prices, so it's around about £5 a pint, which is, you're paying that anyway in most cities, British cities or wherever, and in Ireland too these days. So that's good. When you venture further afield, though, you can be paying sort of £9-10 and more for a drink. Obviously, the key thing is not appearing to be intoxicated on the streets. You can be arrested for that. But so far, it appears that they are being lenient around certain things. Like, there was talk that you wouldn't be able to walk around in shorts and stuff like that. Obviously, they're quite strict around what females are wearing too. But the shorts thing has been let go. I heard quite a funny conversation with some of the lads who were playing in the fan park. Apparently, they were told about the shorts thing, and they said, "Well, what's the problem with the shorts?" And the person who was acting as a bit of a middleman said, "Well, it's seen as being a bit sexual." And they were like, "Have you seen the state of some of these lads who are going to come and play on the stage? It's not sexual. They just want to get some sunshine." And there is some sunshine today, by the way, which is very welcome. It was raining when we arrived.
Gareth, we'll let you go. Good stuff. Enjoy the final as well. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
It's Gareth Roberts there from the Anfield Wrap talking to us about his experiences in Qatar. Right, so the competition, I've already told you those top two, Cork versus Clare in the All-Ireland hurling final in 2013. So we've got some brilliant prizes and gifts to give away in the build-up to Christmas. It is our gift guide brought to you in association with thanks to Best Menswear. A little later on this morning, we're going to bring you our gift guide for sporting events of 2020. We've got a €150 made-to-measure shirt from Best Menswear to give away to enter the draw. We're just asking you to tell us about your best sporting event that you've attended this decade. Dara Hayes says, Tipperary versus Kilkenny 2014 All-Ireland drawing game. That was pretty good. That was, that's the Hawkeye final.
2014, the drawn final, yep.
Yeah. Ireland versus Germany, Shane Long goal. Yeah, I was at that. That was pretty good. Watching the ball going, hang on a second, he's three.
Is that Myler's pass to Randolph, yeah?
Yeah, no. But I also remember that being like one of those days where you're in Dublin early and there are fans around and you're like, these are the fans of the world champions. This is like a big, big, big game. The current world champions are playing a massive qualification match against a team, from our perspective, who needs to win. And then for us to actually win that game, that never happens.
No.
Like, it never happens.
A draw would have been the sort of...
it happens once a decade. It happened in the year 2000.
And one. Wait.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
The year 2001. And it happened then. And where we win big games at home.
Really
against
does.
like,
oh my God, it really only does happen once a decade, doesn't
against
it?
a proper team.
Really only does. That is grim realisation.
Yeah, because even Paris in 2009 happened in Paris, and like that was our best performance after the World Cup. There's no other good performances in between then. And since then, I mean, there was a few games where we beat like...
Bosnia.
Yeah.
Estonia.
Did we beat Bosnia at home? We did. You did, yeah. Ireland versus the All Blacks, Aviva win. All amazing atmospheres. I wasn't at that game. Watched that one on telly. Unforgettable. Hashtag OTBM. Hashtag We Dress Heroes. Hashtag Tailors of Confidence. Dara, you're putting yourself right in the mix there. Shane Finnegan says the Donegal Dublin game in 2014. What a tactical masterclass by Jim to beat the unbeatable team, as quoted by Dara Maloney. Yeah, that was an amazing game. That should definitely have been in our round of 16. That was an amazing game. You could have picked the goal that Ryan McHugh scores as the moment where, because it's like wherever we were sitting, you could just see the high ball going into the midfielders and them just flicking it on. Rory Kavanagh just flicking the ball on. Like, what are we watching here? This is amazing. It's like they know what to do. Why can't everybody do this?
They had solved the jigsaw at that one moment, and the thing was that they had to strike at that moment. They had to win that game because...
Why didn't you go to bat for this more?
Because...
You had the good line about this being the Seamus Darby moment. It's already happened. You wasted this.
I did say that, actually.
Months and months and months ago.
Yeah, I said Ryan McHugh was our Seamus Darby.
Why didn't you do it?
Our generation's Seamus Darby.
Can we grandfather this in and put it in as like a third option, Team 33, for the final?
Yeah, like the thing is though, Dublin would have learned from that moment regardless if they'd won or lost. From Donegal's perspective, they had to win that game because if they'd lost that game, Dublin still would have beaten them every other time they would have played them. Unfortunately for Donegal, they didn't actually turn it into an All-Ireland. I
know, they really should have. They deserved it. They were
not really.
They lost the second best team of the decade.
If you lose an All-Ireland final, you don't really deserve to win the All-Ireland. Like, I don't go around walking around here saying Kerry deserved to win this year's All-Ireland because they lost the final.
Yeah, but I mean, Kerry are Donegal were the second best team that year. Donegal were the best team.
Clearly, second best team to the All-Ireland champions. Yeah.
I needed to work that out in my head before I started getting into it. But it's true. I actually think that Donegal team were better than that Kerry team. But Kerry,
not sure about that.
Snuck them in the final.
I actually disagree with that.
Right. 2019 was a great year for Irish sport on a number of levels. The Rugby World Cup was a highlight. Right? It was a highlight. Well, Eoin in Japan was a highlight. Have a look.
We're tasting some sushi here in Shizuoka. We've come down to the docks because it's fresh off the trawler. Japanese people, very friendly. Japanese cats, pricks. Bit of rice, bit of fish. Sushi is, isn't it? It's job very much done for Ireland here in Yokohama.
We thought it was a fabulous game. We came all the way from Hong Kong.
I was really impressed with Johnny Sexton coming back in for his first big game back.
I personally think Johnny Sexton did nothing.
Yeah, we're all a big fan of... who are we a big fan of?
Scotland are shite.
We're going to call our firstborn son Jacob Stockdale-Gleeson.
I don't really see where you're getting that from, but anyway.
Scotland were just shite. Like, Qatar Airways, brilliant airline.
Yeah. I mean, I like doing so, but...
Sheahan.
Oh, no. Off the ball. Oh, wow.
I mean, keep it...
I think Gav is right.
Gav's a fucking bullshit.
32 days on the road and we're going watching rugby now. Yeah, it's good.
I'm still talking.
Where do we go?
How can this happen? I mean, you know, how can this happen?
We left 12 points on the pair. Carthy's a good player, but he didn't kick well today. He didn't find touch. Japan missed 2 kicks. We could have got there. Look.
Ireland will win the Rugby World Cup. Come on, Ireland! No! Kerry will win the All-Ireland next year. Come on, the Kingdom!
I want to talk about Saipan.
And you what? Never mind Munster, never mind Ireland. Come on, Cork! Cork for Liam McCarthy!
Yeah, I'd say I'm a big deal.
You're welcome along to another edition of The Thing where I review food. I would call it Sheahan Sushi, but then again, I'm not a complete dick. So have a look at this. This is today's review. Oh wait, the sound did not record. It's not like I'm a media professional or anything. Tempura is basically a Japanese delicacy where you take anything and you shove it in a deep fat fryer. Life is just so much better if you just shove stuff into a deep fat fryer. So it wasn't perfect tonight by any stretch of the imagination from Ireland, but they do come away from the Russia game with a bonus point win.
Do you want to come down?
I'm starting to really worry that we're not actually that good at rugby. We have to really step up our game. We really have to step up our game. And look, right. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, no, overall, delighted with Ireland's performance tonight from a results point of view.
Having a fantastic time. There's lots of carnage going on, but it's to be excused. It's to be excused.
The talent, the accuracy, is that actually there?
I don't know.
I think. Good. Yay. Super. Good job.
Kimono boys in green. Kimono boys in green. Kimono boys. Kimono boys in green.
But the Irish support was a bit boring.
Bollocks be dressed.
Oh, listen, stop the lights.
Where are you from? Australia. How do you reckon your chances are? Shit.
Listen, we got to turn this on him. So what did you think of the game yourself?
I thought it was absolutely savage, to be honest. Yeah.
What game were you watching?
We had 2 guys beside us. One guy researched how to spell Ireland, and he spelled it perfect with a fada. I-R-E, fada. I-R-E.
Well, since Paul O'Connell retired, there hasn't been a decent ginger second row. And Eoin, yourself now, you wouldn't be much good. You're short as fuck.
Harry Kane still knows what he's talking about. Sheahan doesn't, does he?
What was your trick to surviving?
The pints.
You're welcome along to The Thing where I review food. I would call it Sheahan Sushi, but believe it or not, there is some semblance of self-respect behind these eyes. Really nice place, nice little stream running through it. Kind of feels like when the lazy river setting is turned on in the Aquadome. Saw a robot get decapitated and blood spurted everywhere. Not quite sure how that works. I've not tasted anything like this. This is not a flavour crisp we have at home. This guy appears to be the main villain in It Chapter 3. The Japanese confectionery system need to get their house in order because sorely disappointed with that.
And I can only imagine your socks after week 4. My God.
Listen, you go from hotel to Airbnb because Airbnbs have washing machines, Joe. I've planned this out logistically like a pro, so I'm all good.
In a further string to my rebellious bow, I've been bitten all over my body by mosquitoes over the last couple of days. Apparently, the mosquitoes here might be carrying measles, and yet I haven't texted home to see if I did get that jab when I was in 4th class. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called the thug life. Spent about 3 hours in various hospitals last night. Wasn't expecting that. Was not expecting unexpected bits. We're here in Fukuoka, where Ireland have hammered Samoa tonight.
I feel happy again.
No English!
Ireland for the World Cup! Woo!
We'll beat New Zealand if we have Devon Toner. Apparently he's 2 foot taller than he was when we left here. Not getting anything out of me, you dirty Malik. All we need is a bit of Dev. All we need is Dev.
Where are you from? I'm from Mayo. I don't remember the second half, so...
Glenroe. There's another picture of an autumn day.
Hello?
Like, we get a lot of typhoons out in Kerry there as well. Like, you know, you get an all winter evening there in November, like, you know, but...
I have a tip for surviving typhoons. If you have a family, leave them where they are.
No, that's not my penis, thank you very much. You're welcome along to another edition of The Thing, where I review Japanese food. I would call it Sheahan sushi, but then again, I'm only a gobshite some of the time. Looks like Nutella on the inside or something like that. Like, you'd know you're eating a cat, like. You can taste the arrogance of it. It's just perfectly fitting. Hard exterior, it's exactly what a cat is. I'm gonna give this an NG score, no grade. No score for Sumiko Garashi, terrible. Boiled sweets are the worst invention known to mankind. Give me a Mentos any day, put it in your mouth for 5 seconds, and then you can start chewing it. It's a waste of time. Got better things to be doing in my life than sucking on boiled sweets.
Fucking mental cracked altogether. I watched you on Instagram the other day. You're fucking insect fingers. His hands. Fingers? Show me your hands.
Oh, yeah.
The other one.
No, they're gone down.
They're gone back down, yeah.
Off the ball, to be fair, I've watched Off the Ball on YouTube. They're good boys. We absolutely love it.
There you go. Apologise for any language there if there are any little ears listening.
Perfect for 8 a.m. on a Thursday morning.
Yeah. But, yeah, Eoin, you had a good time.
It was good, yeah. It was good.
How are your giant hands now?
They're actually fine. I was never really that worried about it. Tweeting a picture of your injuries abroad is not a good idea ever.
Yeah,
that's what caused the worry.
What did your ma say? I mean, we know what your work mammy, Adrian Barry, had to say, but your actual ma?
She was like, "Oh God, are you okay?" sort of thing, because she would have obviously only seen it via social media as well. My dad lurks on Twitter, so it would have got passed on to her in some manner, which I obviously hadn't really thought through. We were stuck on a train going back from Wales, Fiji, when the hand started to explode, and I was like, "This is my life now. I'm not getting off this train for another few hours, so this could keep going, or I could, just stop, have a few cans, and forget about it for a little while."
Do you have the cans?
Yeah, I had just.
Did it make the pain go away?
It wasn't painful ever.
Oh, wasn't it?
It just swelled. It just swelled, yeah. So it was just kind of like I don't think people necessarily just sit there and look at their hands. So I think it was probably swollen by the time I got to my laptop, and I was like, hold on a minute, what the hell is that? So I never really felt it.
Right.
So check your hands more often is the moral of the story here.
Tom, good morning to you.
Well, I have to follow that.
Yeah, let's have a look.
We'll start with our, again, favourite sport, administration. The IRFU looked likely to shoot down any possibility of taking on the FAI's 42.5% stake in the Aviva Stadium. Representatives of the Irish Rugby's governing body are due to meet with the Department of Sport today to discuss the FAI's financial issues. The FAI owed €29 million in stadium loans. Minister for Sport Shane Ross told the Oireachtas Joint Committee for Transport, Tourism and Sport yesterday that the FAI had sought a bailout of €18 million. A move that the FAI last night accused Shane Ross of jeopardising the potential refinancing of the association. The FAI said the revelation broke confidentiality of a meeting held at Leinster House on Monday night, so that saga looks set to continue. Meanwhile, on the pitch in football, there will be a Manchester derby in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. Hull City were 3-1 winners away to Oxford last night, while Manchester United took 51 minutes to break Colchester down at Old Trafford before eventually winning by 3-0. United came out on top in the first Premier League derby of the season, and manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says they will still show City plenty of respect.
They can out-football you, so we need to get our game heads on and be ready for them again. But we've shown them as well that we can cause them problems.
In the other semi-final, Leicester City will be up against Aston Villa after Leicester beat Everton by 4-2 on penalties. After that ended 2-2. Well, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp remains hopeful that Virgil van Dijk can play a part in Saturday's Club World Cup final. The Dutch defender missed yesterday's 2-1 win over Monterrey through illness. Liverpool needed an injury time goal there through Roberto Firmino to set up that final meeting with Flamengo, and Klopp says it was a wise move to leave out the Dutchman.
Easy decision, couldn't play. Difficult for Hendo to deal with, but he did really good, and we will see. I don't know how quick he can recover. We will see.
Celtic, meanwhile, are now 5-point leaders at the top of the Scottish Premiership over Rangers. They won by 2-0 over struggling Hearts with goals from Ryan Christie and Oliver Ntcham last night. Rangers can cut that deficit back to 2 points. They get the better of Hibs tomorrow. While in rugby, former Leinster and Ireland scrub coach Greg Feek has been confirmed as part of the new All Blacks backroom team. He'll work under new head coach Ian Foster. Feek worked with Joe Smith in each of his 2 previous jobs. While in show jumping last night, there's a brilliant result for Ireland's Michael Pender. He shared the spoils in last night's puissance at the Olympia. Pender on board went clear for 5 rounds rather, including over 7'4", alongside William Whittaker on RMF Charlie. Brought up a unique double for Pender and his horse Harton Dubois Hello, who also combined to win the Hickstead Derby back in June. Pretty unique double that. And in darts tonight, Ireland's Willie O'Connor will look to cause an upset at the PDC World Darts Championship. He's up against Gerwin Price, who's the number 3 seed last out.
Tom,
yeah,
the Racing Post have their top 20. The 20 people whose brilliance helped sell our sport in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Power players. The Queen is number 6.
Yeah, that's tokenism. She really isn't.
She's ahead of Aidan O'Brien, Willie Mullins, Michael O'Leary.
I mean, she's had one Royal Ascot winner in the last 20 odd years. She's had one good horse, basically, an estimate. She does not deserve to be in that list. You know, you look at someone like Khaled Abdullah, who's had like Frankel and that incredible, like Enable, Arrogate, global superstars of the game. Like, he's a power player. Actually, my moment of the decade, by the way, I finally thought of it.
Yeah, come on.
And it was Frankel's Guineas in 2011. We can take that as Irish because Tom Queally rode him, and he's an Irish jockey.
Was that 11 out of 11? That beats commentary.
It was a pretty good commentary, yeah. But it was Frankel's 2,000 guineas. He looked like the pacemaker. He was 15 clear at the halfway point, and he just stayed on to win. So he goes. Ian Bartlett was on commentary, and he goes something along the lines, "He's 12 clear at the bushes," which is like you coming into the dip at Newmarket, and that just kills horses stone dead. They just stop, and he just found and kept going. So yeah, Frankel. 2011, 2,000 guineas, by far the horse racing moment of the decade.
Okay, fair enough. That's pretty good because you're not supposed to beat the field by that much.
No, not at all. He looked like the pacemaker. He looked like he was setting the pace of the race. And normally when that happens, that horse will be absolutely dead on their feet 2 furlongs out, and he just kept going and going.
Shane Lowry or Katie Taylor for you?
Lowry, I think. Just on depth of the field and the kind of, you know, the incredible achievement versus, like, Katie Taylor is the best in her field. Like, she is the best women's boxer of all time. Whereas Shane Lowry is not the greatest golfer of all time. So for him to win the Open Championship in Royal Portrush is an absolutely incredible achievement at the moment.
Yeah.
That's why it's for me.
Okay. You're voting Lowry as well, are you?
No, remember I voted Taylor.
No, I can't remember. It's like an hour and a half ago, Owen.
There's a lot of moments going on here. A decade's worth.
I can't even remember what I said, but I think it would have been. But I think from looking at the poll there a moment ago, Shane Lowry's going to be hard bet.
Hard bet.
8:24 this morning, and you're watching OTB AM. I'm sorry for your troubles. The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Wall. Lots more to come on our show. PFAI General Secretary Stephen McGuinness is going to join us. Our Best Menswear gift guide for the sporting event of 2020. And Tyrone's Philip Jordan on the hip injuries that plagued his career. We're going to be back with our big annual crappy quiz of the year in a moment. I have a few more suggestions for you. Mary Collins says the country stood still to watch Katie's gold. Pubs were packed. Ireland winning a rugby series in Sydney, says Rory Bain. This was where asking people for the best things that they were at. That was been pretty sweet.
Yeah.
If you're living down there and you got to see that, if that happened to arrive in the country you're in, that was pretty nice.
Eamon O'Lyon, Ploughing Championships 2019. Team of Sheep beats current Irish football team.
I'd well believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the context of that is, but maybe a few more details, Eamon, would certainly bring them to air without fact-checking as we were want to do. Joey O'Shea.
Only 14 minutes to go, Joey.
Joey O'Shea says, 2014 Kilkenny tip drawn game. It had absolutely everything. Best game of hurling of the decade, right down to the Hawkeye drama at the end. Darrell, Ireland versus Germany for me, enhanced by the fact that sat up in the rafters right behind a couple who'd clearly been on the beer all day. After 10 minutes in, the fella puked all over his missus.
Oh my God.
All over his missus and some nearby German fans, and then sat with his head in his hands and left at half time. It was horrific.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Normally you feel better after a puke though, right?
I think the shame of just watching your own vomit bin on other people around you.
Especially your
other
half. David O'Grady went to the Aviva to see Ireland versus Germany in the Euro qualifiers in October 2015 when Shane Long scored that famous goal. So he's in the mix. My favourite sporting event I attended this decade was earlier this year. My 75-year-old father won the New Forest Golf Club men's singles match play competition, playing off 11, having recently come back after a 2-year layoff. That's class.
Nice one, congratulations.
Yeah, that's nice.
Robert Flynn, Ireland versus Wales World Cup qualifier to get to the playoff, managed to get a ticket on the flight morning of the game. Unreal atmosphere. McLean's goal, amazing away win, took over the city. I really wish I was there because I've never had a good time in Cardiff. Every time I've been to Cardiff, our teams have been absolutely annihilated, and the Welsh are good winners.
Have you gone to a football match in Cardiff?
They're not good winners.
Or has it just been rugby you've gone to?
It's just been rugby.
Therein lies the difference, perhaps.
Some smug monster stuff going on right there.
Welsh football fans good, Welsh rugby fans not so good. According to you, well, I've never been to a match in Cardiff.
Yeah, you should.
I'm intrigued. They talked about the guy who won off 11 there after coming back in a 2-year absence. The detail we're missing is what his handicap was before the 2-year absence.
Oh yeah, was he like a 3?
Like, he was 3. Yeah. He's just been out and he's just getting his shots back.
Yeah, all right. Fair point, Tom. Rating on the parade. All right, 8:27. We're going to take a break and we're back with the big crappy quiz of the decade.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
They spoke about your arm not being down beside your side. I mean, this is not Irish dancing.
OTB Sports Radio.
Basketball would have been my main game.
The brand new sports radio station from Off the Ball.
That's my point. Don't play for us if you're a proud Englishman.
Now broadcasting 24 hours a day. Live on the Go Loud app, Alexa.
You have a whole new world of possibilities.
Google Home, tune in, and offtheball.com/radio.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
From true crime believers to science and business achievers, sports, arts and comedy to the latest entertainment wannabe. Get political, get healthy, get educated. Get all your favourite podcasts on Go Loud. Download the Go Loud app now or add us on your smart speaker. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio and music to your ears.
OTB AM.
Chris Bond.
Oh, you're kidding me.
September.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know, it's not right.
Anybody else?
Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz. What is going on here?
Ho, 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 and welcome to the holliest, jolliest, lolliest segment on Irish radio and online visual platforms. It is the festive, it is the traditional, it is the bah humbug crushing, big fat crappy quiz of the decade. Every year we pit 3 teams of 2 contestants up against one another in a bumper quiz of sporting factoids at the end of the year, or on this occasion, the decade. Can I get a big cheer, everyone? Brilliant stuff. Allow me to welcome tonight's contestants. Introducing the first team, which is headed up by a man seen... that was the most pathetic cheer I've ever heard in my entire life. Introducing the first team, which is headed up by a man who is seen by some now as a traitor in his own county after the events of the last few months. He's done the right thing, though, and the greater good shall prevail, regardless of what those in McHale Park think of him. That's right, he did buy his kid a Dublin jersey during the summer, but who can blame a dad for not wanting to give their kid the gift of misery? Give it up for Nathan Nate Dog Murphy.
Good morning.
You're welcome. Trying to think when exactly this is going out, Nathan Murphy.
It's great to be here on yet again, another year.
You certainly are a morning person. You're very welcome. Joining Nathan is OTB's main snooker expert. He can do amazing things like tell the difference between Judd Trump and Mark Selby. He has such an interest in the sport that someone really needs to tell him that it is not 1987 anymore. Give it up for Shane Rocketman Hannon.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Our first team.
Good to be here.
A formidable team.
Yeah.
Our next team is headed up by a coach, a pundit, and a Game of Thrones nerd. In no particular order. I say no particular order, but rumour has it that he's already told Jason Quigley and Paddy Donovan and Tyson Fury to find themselves another coach if HBO get cracking on a brand new series. Give it up for Andy Lee.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Am I ahead of the team? I thought Ronan was.
You're team captain.
I'm leaning on you heavily. Well.
Joining Andy is his partner in crime on Off the Brawl, a man from County Louth. They may call it the wee county, but they had loads of things going for it this decade, such as that great Stephen Kenny Dundalk team, that Dundalk team headed up by Stephen Kenny, and the Dundalk FC side that made it to the Europa League group stages. Give it up for Ronan, not that one, Mullen.
We had Rob Carney as well. We had Rob Carney for a long time, but now he's also gone. So this is
They won Leinster in 2010 as well. Oh, sorry, no.
Oh, no. Too soon.
Low blow.
Sorry.
Our final duo today is headed up by a man who joined the likes of Gay Byrne, Boris Johnson and Joe Schmidt this year. What do they all have in common, I hear you ask? That's right. They were all at one point or another trending on Twitter. Give it up for Joe Trendsetter Malloy. How does that feel?
Not good. Not good. It wasn't a good day.
What were you trying to?
It involved an incident with Gary Neville, Andy. We don't need to revisit it.
I missed the intro there. What happened? Sorry, I was trying to sort something out.
Joe Malloy speaks out for the first time since Gary Neville gate.
The people came to my defence, so it turned out okay in the end, but it wasn't a good morning. Can we move on?
Still not laughing about it.
Joining Joe is a crappy quiz regular, sickened by the influx of new faces for the end of the year quiz. He knew about this band before they were cool, and certainly he don't need no Joe Malloy or Andy Lee to tell him what's cool. Give it up for Phil the Power Egan.
You're the current champion, Phil.
Oh yeah? No.
Oh, last year's champ. Last year's Christmas champ.
Was he?
Yeah,
Who were you with?
It was Tommy Rooney. So.
Well, he's not here today.
I'm just glad for once I have a sober teammate.
That is very, very true.
Well, yeah, it's an advantage. I'm not so sure. Well,
I think.
Say nothing.
Were you not here for Kilban disgracing himself?
No.
But that was 2 years ago.
It was Jer, who was your last partner, and
also not great.
I do kind of remember you guys cheating, so I'll be keeping a close eye now.
Sorry, what?
Hoping Owen,
preemptive excuses from our team.
Deduct points.
Sorry. I take major issue with that. I do not cheat in this quiz.
Defamation.
That's an outrage. You can't just accuse me of cheating.
There was something
I
going
remember it
on.
happening for sure.
Remember that?
Sure, yeah. It
might have been Gilroy. I did not cheat.
Well,
Gloves.
Takes two to tango.
I mean, do the public believe Andy Lee or Nathan Murphy?
Yeah, it's true. It's true, Nathan.
Mayo believes me. Mayo believes me.
Jeez, because I haven't managed to build up this world's nicest man persona over the last 10 years. Just because I've been true to myself in this, There's no acting here.
They might see behind
They're
the veil now.
Here's how today's quiz is going to work. There are going to be 8 rounds, which is where you all groan and it tends to happen. Yeah, they're going to have regulars, such as the boring questions round, the magic number round, and of course, the rapid fire round. But there's going to be tons of special rounds in between, with the team with the most points at the end of the day picking up the esteemed title of Big Fat Crappy Quiz Champions of the Decade. Can I get a cheer at least? No. It actually is getting better. That's a really, really masculine cheer. Well done, everybody. Kicking things off with a classic. Round 1, boring questions round. In this round, we're going to ask each team one boring question about sport from the decade that was. Never multiple choice. Conferring is allowed. Nathan and Shane, question 1. The 2014 All-Ireland hurling final was one of the games of the decade. It ended in a draw, which was won by Kilkenny after a replay. Can you name their winning captain on that occasion?
2014. That's tough.
2014. Did they go with the club player as captain?
Don't think they do.
No, they must, because they change captain every year. So Henry was
looking
captain
at me
one
as
year.
cheating. I think.
I don't even know why I'm looking at you, because you have no idea.
I do know the answer to that.
Who was the keeper in 2014?
Owen Murphy. Would it have been Owen Murphy, or was it TJ? Was TJ last year?
Oh, I don't think it was TJ in 2014.
2014.
We need to get this on, sure.
Yeah, we'd like.
Is there a shot clock?
We've only started.
Give me a hurler's name.
We've only started. Who else could it be?
That's a tough opening question.
It is.
That's a tough opening.
But it's
Brian
respect.
Hogan?
Respect for a good team.
Owen Murphy does some reason come to mind.
It just
but I'm
jumps
thinking
in my
was
head.
that.
5 seconds.
If it's Owen Murphy,
4,
I'll
3.
All right, we'll go Owen Murphy.
No, you wouldn't have got it. Joe, what were you thinking?
I don't know. But they do switch captain every year. Whoever wins the club, they switch.
It was a year Lester Ryan was captain.
Lester Ryan, exactly.
That's why he's champ.
Yeah, that was a ridiculously tough question. Yeah, it's tough. How many guesses would you have had to get to before Lester Ryan?
Here all day.
Have you heard of Lester Ryan?
What do you mean?
Oh, you would have got to him eventually, I guess. Ronan and Andy. You would have come up with his name eventually if you got through all the Kilkenny players. Ronan and Andy. Manchester United last won the Premier League in the 2012-2013 season, but can you name their shirt sponsor that year?
Come on.
AIG.
You don't need to whisper.
Oh yeah, AIG or
I think it was Eoin.
Eoin. Yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
Eoin.
Are they right, Nathan?
Well,
you clearly weren't convinced. It's correct. Aeon is the correct answer.
Yeah, the pre-Chevrolet era where things have gone downhill rapidly.
I remember I was walking down New York one time. I was living there and I had a United shirt on, and someone came up to me and said, "You're a disgrace for wearing that shirt." And I grabbed the badge and kissed it. But then I realised he was talking about AIG. This guy had just been ruined in the financial crisis.
Of course, it's a terrible story, and you wish him well. Question 1 for Joe and Phil. The Miracle at Medina is one of the greatest sporting comebacks ever, let alone of this decade. But can you name any European that lost a singles match on that famous final day of the 2012 Ryder Cup?
Lost match.
Mm-hmm.
Right, actually, let's try and rule out. Obviously,
Give them a bit of banter because they were talking a lot in your question.
Eye contact.
Fine, I'm staying calm.
That was towards the end, kind of conceded by Tiger, wasn't it?
Did Paul Lowry win?
Remember Lowry chipping in on the last day, but did he win? I don't know.
Justin Rose beat Phil.
Name of your podcast?
I think they're feeling the pressure here.
Golf Weekly. This is Golf Decade. Who were the no marks in that team?
Oh, you tell us and we'll tweet that out.
Trending on Twitter soon again.
Who were the rookies?
Come on.
Hang on one second. We're making progress here. Keimer obviously
Me and Andy, bang, bang, bang. First round knockout.
At least, if we were going to be wrong, we were going to be wrong quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And we deduct points for just wasting everybody's time.
Give us a sec here now, please, Nathan. This is cheating again.
I actually want to, while I confer, I want to talk about another element of cheating that could be happening.
Oh. Yes, do, please.
Nathan is directly looking at JP, who's in the box, and JP cannot tell a lie. His face is like lit up. His face is lit up at every answer, every suggestion.
In fairness, Andy, you've spoken to JP. The chances of JP giving the right answer here are...
Molinari and Tiger draw, yeah.
Come on.
Come on,
that's enough.
That's enough. 5, 4,
Paul Lowry.
3. No.
Paul Lowry won. That was his thing.
Paul Lowry did have a hole with Tiger. You're correct in that. But
was Colesart?
Colesart has won. Graham McDowell lost.
Did he?
And Peter Hansen.
Peter Hansen was the other one.
Unlucky, folks. So at the end of round 1, Ronan and Andy, the only ones who've registered a point. Round 2 is the specialist subject round.
Lowry's whole thing was he wasn't a one-hit wonder. He had Medina.
It's true. Yeah, we did have Medina.
I'll never forget Lester Ryan lifting the Liam McCarthy.
Can you win it every year? Come on. None of them stand out.
In the second round, we're splitting the teams up, and we will be asking each member from each team a question on their specialist subject.
Do you know what I just thought, right? One of the great missed opportunities, and maybe I'm getting this totally wrong and I should be ashamed, one of the great missed opportunities of Irish sport over the last 20 years. That Tommy Walsh never captained Kilkenny. Imagine Tommy Walsh making an All-Ireland winning speech.
Yeah. That's what you get for Tyrone being in intermediate and junior hurling. Disgrace of a system.
It's a terrible system. Do Kerry still have it,
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's a joke.
Yeah, it should abolish it next year. Anyway, more on that.
7 rounds to go.
Morning on OTB. We're splitting the teams up, as I said. Specialist subject, not necessarily the contestants' chosen specialist subject, but a subject I chose for them because we didn't really have much time. We were putting a twist on this round. If the question is answered incorrectly, we will then be passing it on to the next individual in line. So the order here is going to be Shane, then Andy, then Joe, then Nathan, then Ronan, and then finally Phil. No conferring allowed at any point, even during the transfers. So it's time for the hero in your team to step up to the plate.
Sounds very straightforward.
Question 2 for you, Shane.
Sorry, what?
This is going to be a snooker.
You've been given the specialist subject of Gaelic football. Here's about snooker. Of all the All-Ireland football finals played this decade, can you name the counties that shipped the biggest beatings? It's a tie. They both lost by 6 points, so I'm going to need the name of 2 counties.
The 2 counties that lost by the most in an All-Ireland final this decade?
Exactly.
Okay, well, it was in 2011, 2012, 2012.
2013, Dolan, no. 2014, Kerry. 15. Mayo will be one of them. And the 2012, no. Kerry.
That's the wrong answer. Mayo and Kerry is his answer. We can't confirm whether or not one of those was right or wrong, to be honest. So that passes on to Andy.
Let's go.
So
Same question.
Same question.
Oh, the same question.
Yeah,
I know it's confusing. It's ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
but everybody can get in on the fun now.
Yeah, but it could also go on for like 3 days.
We're going to need. I'm going to give you a 5-second timer in my head before we pass it on. So 5.
Okay, I'm going to take Mayo.
3.
And I will take
2.
Donegal.
1. No. Joe.
Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing.
Keeps going.
Keeps the same question.
Yeah.
Is it Mayo and Tyrone?
No. Nathan.
It's not Mayo.
Donegal and Kerry.
No. We should be passing these on. This is a terrible idea.
Shit.
Kerry Tyrone?
Kerry Tyrone, exactly. Ronan gets the point.
That's my team, mate.
What did Donegal beat Mayo by in 12?
Oh, good question. No, it certainly wasn't 6. I think it might have been
Points
3.
probably.
2 or 3, maybe.
It was the first 10 minutes, wasn't it?
Andy.
Flying.
You have been given the special subject of boxing. Someone tipped me off that you have a keen interest in the sport. There have been 2 fighters this decade outside of Europe, Mexico and the United States that have won the Ring's Fighter of the Year award. Can you name them?
So, outside of... God, so say it again.
Outside of the United States, Mexico and Europe, can you name the 2 fighters that were named as the Ring's Fighter of the Year?
Manny Pacquiao. He's already said no.
Does this not move on to the next person?
It does.
So don't say that.
So you can get one by... Of this decade, Manny Pacquiao was named Fighter of the Year. Manny Pacquiao and...
5, 4...
Outside it... Right, God.
2, 1...
God, I'll pass it over.
Yeah. Wow. Tyson Fury suddenly thinking...
This was...
Who's next?
Joe, you're next.
Oh, Jesus.
Pass. Yeah, I would pass. Nathan.
Outside Europe?
It's coming to roll next. It's coming to roll
3.
next.
Wait, outside Europe, Mexico, and the United States.
Yeah.
No. Pass it on. Ronan. Bring the points back to your team.
Carl Frampton.
He's Europe.
He's European.
On we go.
Phil.
If these 2 can't get it,
Phil's got a good chance.
Keep that buzzer time.
5.
The neater than air.
4. No. Done. The answer is... This actually turned out to be a tough question. No.
Was he born in Canada or something like that?
Sergio Martinez and Adonis Stevenson.
Canadian.
That's a very good question. Fairness.
Great question. Great question.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure about this format, though.
We did talk about both of them in our boxing preview today, but not in the context of Ring Magazine Fight of the Year. But
great.
Good job.
That's information that you will.
Very, very good question.
Yeah. Joe, you have been given the special subject of the 2014 World Cup, the one where you spent the summer fluting around on the Copacabana.
Yeah.
It was a tournament that ended in disaster for tournament host Brazil, getting hammered 7-1 by Germany in the semi-final. Who scored for Brazil?
Why does he only have to give one answer?
Oh my God. Inconsistencies in my question writing, to be quite honest.
That makes no sense.
Well, it's easier to pick up the points if he gets it wrong as well. 5 seconds.
Fred?
No. Nathan? 5 seconds. 4, 3.
Thiago Silva?
No. Ronan?
Hit the question again, Eoin, one more time, sorry.
Who scored the Brazil goal?
7-1
Oscar.
Yes, correct.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Picked up another one.
He can't
Great
remember
answer.
anything.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
It wasn't a guess.
No, I remember it.
Oh, my God.
Nathan, you've been given the specialist subject of the 2015 World Cup, the one where you spent the autumn fluting around Burton while your family had chickenpox. So Ireland obviously would have... It's true, yeah. So Ireland obviously would have won that World Cup were it not for those pesky injuries. Can you tell me who scored their tries in the defeat to Argentina in the quarter-final? Again, back to needing 2 names here.
Luke Fitzgerald? Tommy Bowe?
No. Ronan?
Like, why you gotta buy 2 answers and that was only 1?
You had the opportunity to answer his one
You got
question.
the same question.
Against Argentina.
Against Argentina.
Luke Fitzgerald, Geordie Murphy.
Correct. Ronan is wrong. He's proud of him.
What's the score here?
Ronan Mullen, 10, everybody nil.
Yeah, they're leading 4-0 overall.
Up early.
Boxing question I got right.
Ronan, now it's up to you. You've been given the special subject of US sports. So, only 2 coaches have steered a team to the Super Bowl at least twice in the last decade. Bill Belichick is obviously one. Can you name the other? So just a Super Bowl appearance.
In the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Pete Carroll.
Correct.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, this
Phil.
is whitewash.
Why again did he only have to guess one?
Nathan.
Like Oscar was one. This will be one as well. Phil.
The guy's had a roll.
I got Luke Fitzgerald. If it was who scored one of our tries, I would have had the right answer.
That's too easy.
But he got Geordie Murphy as
But
well.
they're all easy.
They're
He
really
knows
not.
them all.
Geordie Murphy's pretty
You didn't know Geordie Murphy.
Oscar was clearly a tougher question than the Geordie Murphy Luke Fitzgerald thing. That involved an Ireland sporting team. That one didn't. Like Oscar was a tough question.
You can't get out when you got the Brazil question and he got the Brazil question.
I can.
And I will.
Phil, you've been given the special subject of the Premier League.
Right, Phil,
Only one
we can do
footballer has won the PFA Player of the Year twice this decade. Can you name him?
Eden Hazard.
No. Back to who went first? Shane.
No conferring over here.
Sorry.
This decade twice.
Gonna need an answer.
Sergio Aguero.
No.
Who's next?
Andy. Gonna have to push you for an answer straight away here as well. Up against the time wise.
I know he's going to get it, so give me a chance now.
Three.
Oh, give me a second.
One.
No, give me a
JP
second.
settled in the box. After Andy, it's Joe.
Oh, man, give me 1 second here to answer this question.
Go on.
Time's up.
I don't know it.
No, time's up. I'm moving on.
Joe, you go.
I'm taking a punt here. I'm trying to frantically think what year he left. Is it Ronaldo?
No.
Can I give my punt now?
Right, between two.
No, go on. Let the man answer.
Don't say it the second. Just go with your gut.
Gareth Bale.
Correct.
Yes!
Yes.
I was tempted with Van Persie, but I just couldn't.
Did Ronaldo win it once?
He won it twice as well, but in the wrong decade. So 2010, 2011, and 2012, 2013
Quiz
is
of the
Gareth
decade.
Bale. Round 3 is the mystery voice round. So have your earphones at the ready. It's going to be Nathan and Shane first. All you've got to do is name the person in this clip. So are you ready to rock?
Yes, sir.
Pass over this one.
Can this pass on?
Mystery voice. This is me and your answer first.
No, this is not passing on.
So we just have to name the mystery voice.
Yes.
Okay.
Does this it doesn't pass along?
Have a listen to this.
Obviously, guys, I've given this a huge amount of thought since we returned from the World Cup and even before that.
Does this pass on?
Will you pass it on?
I think I would like.
Okay, let's pass it on. Let's go for it. Let's pass it on.
We can't change the rules after the.
Play it again there. I didn't hear.
Obviously, guys, I've given this a huge amount of thought since we returned from the World Cup and even before that.
So who is that?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to pass on.
Yeah,
that
let's
makes
do
it
it.
difficult. It's hard.
It's an English retirement from rugby.
It's an English.
Isn't it?
20.
Should the points diminish for the pass on points because
But it's
there's
only 1 point going.
2 previous answers?
It sounded a bit like. Oh,
No,
this shouldn't
yeah.
pass on. We can't confer then.
Obviously, I've given it a lot.
You can confer, but it'll only pass on to the team after you.
World Cup.
But they'll hear on conferring in our rationale.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
is it
No
John
passing on.
Wilkinson?
Need an answer. 5, 4, 3, 2,
What are we going for?
1. Give me an answer.
Tyndall.
No, it was Martin Johnson.
Oh.
We had that one. We had that one.
Yeah.
Right. Ronan and Andy, you're up. Have a listen to this.
This was one of my favourite England shirts, I think, actually. It's a bit different. Obviously, a badge right in the middle on the front, a bit different to what you'd normally see.
Ooh, give us it again because they had 2
Yeah,
ones.
let's have another
This
listen.
was one of my favourite England shirts, I think, actually. It's a bit different. Obviously, a badge right in the middle on the front, a bit different to what you'd normally see.
What are we going for, lads?
Chris Kirkland. Will you play for England? No, not much. It's like a northern-ish player.
It sounds like Michael Owen, but it's not Michael Owen.
Go on, go with it. Go with it.
I'll just say Michael Owen.
No. Correct.
Oh.
Right, Joe and Phil, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's have a listen.
I was upset that we got pulled out of the taxi for. I
know
thought
this.
something that nothing
I know
like.
this is too easy.
There's no reason for a gun to be pulled out for us for doing nothing.
What's his name again?
Ryan Lochte.
Correct.
It's too easy.
That was good.
That was the easiest one of the round, in fairness.
the score? Are
The
we
score
up
at the moment is Ronan and Andy are on 5, Nathan and Shane are on 1, and Joe and Phil are on 1. So a 4-point lead for Off the Brawl at the moment going into round 4, which is the uber difficult double points round. In this round, we'll turn boffins into legends as we ask you a particularly challenging question that will require a number of parts. A correct answer will result in 2 points, and an incorrect answer, again, will result in the potential points pass to the next team up. Actually, no, we're not going to do that because that was nonsense last time. So 2 points if you're right, nothing if you're wrong. Question 4 for Nathan and Shane. Can you name all of the Masters champions this decade?
All of the Masters champions this decade.
Do you need a pen and paper?
But I didn't hear you ask what sport. Golf and snooker.
Feck off. Feck off.
Well, they're your specialist sports.
Not the years, just the champions.
Sorry, like,
the years.
this is going to take 5 minutes. You're as well to go around and get us to write them down and come back.
Okay, good shout. Ronan and Andy.
We get another biro there, we'll write these down. Someone throw us in a pen.
So you might need it. We'll just see.
I don't think you will. Well, like, see, the thing is, the Masters one is that's actually the easiest question here because...
Can you tell us how many of each there are? Is that a...
No, you can't.
Stretch?
You want the answer? Or
Brandon Sullivan might win like 9. So, okay.
Ronan and Andy, I'm going to need all the opponents Katie Taylor beat at London 2012.
Oof, that's their names.
Names.
I know the 2. It's the middle one that's hard.
And then Joe and Phil.
Yeah.
At the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, 4 players ended up as joint top scorer with 5 goals each. I'm going to need their names.
4 players.
Yeah.
Sammy, I'm not sure.
22.
They've been given 4 names, which would lead me to believe we're going to have a similar number of people. Possibly 4 or 5 golfers, 4 basketball players.
No, there's definitely more 10 golfers.
I'm not going to get a name.
10 different Masters winners.
Spain just
Do you need a pen?
Can we give the country of the third? Because we can't think of
I'm going to need her name.
Spain beat everyone 1-0.
I thought it was like an Asian.
This is really giving me table quiz vibes, actually, this current round. Should have probably thought this out for, broadcast.
Who?
I think we're going to struggle to get the semi-finalists.
Yeah.
We've got Natasha Jonas as the quarter-finalist, and she beat Ochagava in the final, but we know the nationality, but we can't think of the name of it.
Can I get a wrong answer there, JP? You got a pass from Ronan and Andy. Mavzuna Chorieva was the Tajikistan.
Yes. Would you got it? I know it, but I couldn't have
got an answer from Joe and Phil yet?
Sorry. One that we can't.
All right, now shot clocks should be rolling.
All I'm seeing is an empty sheet on snooker here. We're going to need an answer here very, very shortly.
He needs a pen. Right, you write down your snooker.
All right, we'll give him.
Nathan, how are we doing there?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8. I have 2 more I need. So I need all 10 years. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I thought you and Dave McIntyre wrote these things out on a plane.
Now that I'm under pressure, my brain has absolutely frozen.
Right. Name 1 too many.
So
shot clock.
Okay.
I just can't think.
Nathan,
hold up.
Here we go. Nathan, can I ask you, are you confident all those are correct? The clock is ticking.
100% confident my 8 are correct. So
Grand, let's hit the 8 that you're correct with, just to make sure.
All right. Tiger Woods going from backwards. Tiger Woods, Patrick Reed, Sergio Garcia, Jordan Spieth, Danny Willett, Bubba Watson. Then I have Phil Mickelson in 2010.
Yeah. You're missing
Charles
2.
Schwartzel.
Missing 1. 1 Masters winner in golf.
Louis Westhuizen.
No, not Louis Westhuizen.
Gone.
Did you say Adam
Clock's
Scott?
gone.
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott.
Shit.
Nothing for you there.
Louis Westhuizen.
Shane, do you want to at least have a go at
Should've won
snookers,
it.
just in case?
Yeah. So you can't tell me how many there were.
So I don't get a point for that?
No.
We got 2.
Do you want to give me your list so far?
Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
Judd Trump.
France
Yeah.
tank.
Mark Selby.
Yeah.
England tank.
Neil Robertson.
Yeah.
Who would name?
And
It's too
I'm
soon
going to
for
go with
Neymar.
1 more.
There's 3 more.
Argentina.
Ding Junhui.
Ding Junhui, 2 more. No, he's out anyway. It's Mark Allen.
Yeah, he's 1 more. Give him time for 1 more.
Time's gone.
And John Higgins.
No, Sean Murphy.
That was good. That was great.
That's why it's called the uber difficult double point.
All right, come on now. These lads here get answers.
So what are the other questions?
Quick.
What are the other questions?
The easiest question, longest time.
What's their question?
Read it out.
Thomas Muller.
Thomas Muller.
Diego Forlan.
Diego Forlan.
Nice. Now we're getting into tricky territory. David Villa.
David Villa. And 1 more.
Fuck, I don't have a clue.
1 more.
What's the question?
Who got 5 goals in the 2010 World Cup?
I would throw a Sanchez in there or a Messi.
5.
Sanchez or Messi?
4. 3.
Sanchez or Messi?
2.
Messi.
No, Wesley Sneijder.
That was far easier than ours.
Yeah.
Bringing out your worst side.
That was tough.
Adam Scott.
Schneiders are tough.
Round 5 is a classic of the Big Fat Crappy Quiz of the year. It is the Who Am I round. In this round, one member from each team will open the envelope in front of them. Inside the envelope is the name of a sports person, and you must not reveal this name to your teammate. Your teammate must then guess that sports person by only asking yes or no questions.
Me and Tommy did something on this last year.
By only asking what questions?
Get ready for hilarity to ensue.
So if there's only one person in there, is there?
So sorry.
I'll guess who it is.
So sorry, Shane.
Last year
could
we
you
did
please
this.
open the envelope?
Last year we did this, and the first thing I said to Tommy was, "Is it a man?" And he said yes, and that was us.
So you can't. So what's the rules?
Man or woman? He said man.
Oh, was that it? Yeah.
What are the rules?
You can always say
You
yes
can't
or no.
show that to Nathan.
Yeah.
You must only say yes or no. We will have a 30-second timer. Good to go when you're good to go, Shane.
I can only say yes or no.
And is it within the 30 seconds or after?
Within the 30 seconds.
Okay.
Once that buzzer goes, your time is up.
What do you fancy doing, Phil? Guessing or asking?
Shane, you ready to
Asking's the
rock?
hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your 30 seconds starts in 3. Now.
Is it a man?
Yes.
Is it a footballer?
Yes.
Did it play in the Premier League?
Yes.
Did it play for Liverpool?
No.
Is it a manager?
No.
Did it play for Manchester United?
No.
Did it play for Arsenal?
No.
Play for Tottenham?
No.
Are they Irish?
There's absolutely no chance.
He was Irish.
It's not going to happen.
He was Irish.
What?
He was Irish.
Chance. VAR. Ruled out.
He played for the Irish underage teams. Of course he's Irish.
He played for the Irish senior team.
Of course he's he's Irish.
What's the problem?
Of course he's Irish.
He communicated a lot with that.
He's Irish.
It was Grealish or Jack.
No score.
No score. That was it.
All right. Ronan and Andy, you ready?
We have to get that point.
Come on.
No, it's Andy opening the thing. Oh, it doesn't matter if
Andy's
you
guessing.
Okay,
That
Grant.
is disgraceful.
That's an outrage.
That's disgraceful.
All right,
You let yourself down there now.
your time
Giant
starts
asterisk.
now.
Am I a man?
Yes.
Am I a footballer?
No.
Am I a golfer?
No.
Am I a boxer?
No.
Am I a rugby player?
No.
Am I a horse racer?
No.
Jockey. Am I... What are the sports are there? Am I an American footballer?
No.
Am I a basketball player?
No.
Am I a... Oh, come on, who is this? I'm not a golfer.
No.
Am I a...
Time's up.
Oh my God.
I bet you.
Are you on Game of Thrones? No. It was Lewis Hamilton.
Oh.
Oh my God. That's tough.
When you said racer, I was
Are
like,
you going to leave the lads easiest question again now?
I could have gone with it.
Phil, I'm going to let you ask.
Phil and Joe get the easiest question again.
Fill out
Great.
the envelope.
That was tough.
Delighted for them.
I'm asking.
Yeah, that was an outrage.
We
We've
need
got
to
to
get
take
that point.
You would have got there in the end. He actually screwed you.
The YouTube comments are going
He
to
actually screwed you. All he had to say was
he got
no.
that right. He's Irish.
He went.
But he said no.
Because he wasn't sure if it was yes or no, so but he didn't say a word.
Giveaway.
He didn't go.
Got that.
But that's not our problem. It's giveaway. Yeah. And then he said, yeah.
After
The
you-
words
You
came out of his
can't
mouth.
say
were
yes or no definitively there. It's a grey area.
Phil and Joe, you ready to rock?
All Kevin Kilban looking at this, right? Some people, feel there's a bit of a grey area with that. It's fine.
Phil, Joe, time starts now.
Is it a man?
Yes.
Footballer?
Yes.
Premier League?
Yes.
Player?
No.
Manager?
No.
Referee?
No.
First team coach? Assistant?
No.
Player, manager, owner?
No.
Fan?
No eye contact with Phil. I like
Player?
it.
Not a mascot?
No.
Sponsor?
Commentator.
First horse.
Hang on, what other question should I have asked here?
Referee.
Chairman.
Referee.
Pundit.
Yes.
Pundit.
Yes.
Have you heard of him?
Refuses to say his name.
Oh man, pundit.
That was nils all round there. We haven't scored in like 3 rounds.
We have got so badly
former
screwed
player.
in this.
It's,
10 golfers and 10 snooker players.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a joke.
5-1-1 is the score. I did expect you to be ahead at this stage, so you're 4 behind. So 5-1-1 leaders are Ronan and Andy still. Round 6 is the pictures round. In this round, we're going to show you the face of a sports person that might be less familiar as the decade has raged on. All you've got to do is tell me their name. So Nathan and Shane, name this man who was a Premier League Manager of the Month winner this decade.
This doesn't pass on, does it?
Oh my God.
I think everybody at home is making that exact same noise.
My hair on them.
He popped up on Wikipedia earlier and I was like, who is that guy?
Does it pass on?
No.
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy?
Manager of the month. I was hoping it'd be like Carlos Carvajal or something like that.
You've almost definitely said this man's name
I know.
2 dozen times.
It's not Brian McDermott. Reading.
But they weren't in the Premier League. It does look like Brian McDermott, doesn't it?
Yeah, a wee bit. It's
very like Brian McDermott.
It's the baldness that's kind of sending me in that direction.
Yeah, I think we should go with that.
Yeah, Brian McDermott.
Correct.
Hey, great shout. Oh, he's back yourself. First fall there.
That last year United won the league,
That was very
2012-2013.
Yeah, very
He's in charge of Reading.
And he's in charge of Reading. Won a Manager of the Month award.
I just would have assumed he was the previous decade. He was the club.
Ronan and Andy, name this swimmer who won multiple Olympic medals this decade.
Oh. Not gonna get this.
Back yourself, Andy.
Touchy Olympians had some sort of a thing, you know, where you all just respected game.
The Olympic Village.
Carnage.
I've got nothing.
I've got nothing.
No. Katie Ledecky is who that was. Multiple medal winner in Rio. And then finally, Joe and Phil, name this Grand Slam winning tennis player from this decade.
I know who that is, I think.
Do you? It looks like Marin Cilic.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Correct.
Well you know the final answer thing there, that was actually a big hint.
You
that was
went.
actually a big tip.
You went.
Yeah. That was actually a big.
That was actually a
Final answer, guys. Final answer.
Chilich. Facial expression of what he did.
Big hit.
No.
But
he knew the answer.
He's a big tennis guy as well.
One second, I just have one question to ask. Marin Cilic.
Yeah.
How many people won a men's Grand Slam? So once you go outside the other four, there's about 3 other people.
Name them.
It could have been, yeah, exactly.
Why wasn't the question, who's this guy? How'd you narrow it down again?
Well, narrowed yours down to Premier League Manager of the Month and you're a Premier League commentator. So, like, it's...
we were the only ones who actually had it out. We were the only ones who had it like a...
Chris Tarrant handing out the check, you know it's the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We do want to get you to a certain point just for the good of the show.
Keep your facial expressions to yourself.
Yeah, I know. I get told that a lot. Ronan and Andy are on 5. We've got Nathan and Shane on 2. And Joe and Phil also on 2. So we enter round 7. Pens at the ready. The fun-free magic number round. Contestants get 3 points for getting the number exactly right in this round. If no one manages that, the nearest contestant who doesn't go bust gets 2 points. The second closest gets 1 point. Again, I'm going to say that we can only accept the paper, the number that's written on your paper. I'm also going to have to ask for your pens once the music ends. So if you don't mind...
Just get that again.
So
what do we do here again?
You've got to write down your final answer on your piece of paper. If you get it right, you get 3 points. If no one gets it right, but you're the closest person to get it, you get 2 points.
You're going to give us a few different questions and we have to add up
you add them together.
Yeah, okay.
Happens every week in the Crappy Quiz. The number of Willie Mullins trained winners of the Gold Cup there was this decade, plus the number of NBA championships won by Golden State Warriors this decade, plus the number of All-Ireland Football Championship games lost by Dublin this decade, plus the number of times Ireland won the Six Nations this decade. Your 30 seconds expire when Sinatra sings Bright Shiny Beads. So, the number of Willie Mullins trained winners of the Gold Cup at Cheltenham this decade rather. The number of NBA titles won by Golden State throughout the decade. The number of games lost by Dublin in the Championship since 2010. And the number of times Ireland won the Six Nations this decade. Alright, time is almost up. Pens down. Can you get an answer on your paper, please? Nathan and Shane, what have you gone for? Gonna need an answer.
Yeah, 12.
12?
15.
15?
What is it? We've got 10.
10. What do you go for 12?
Yeah.
The answer is 11, so they get the points. 2.
Well done.
The answer is 11. So, Willie Mullins, how many Gold Cup winners? Just the one this year. NBA championships won by Golden State. 3. 2015, 17 and 18. Number of All-Ireland Football Championship games lost by Dublin.
4.
4.
Yeah.
2.
The number of times Ireland won the Six Nations this decade was 3.
I actually would have guessed 10.
So the current scores are 2, 5, 4. So just to reiterate, it's Ronan and Andy on 5. It is Joe and Phil on 4, and it is Nathan and Shane on 2. which brings us to round 8, the rapid fire round. Our winner tonight will be decided in the round that separates the men from the boys, the Jim Gavins from the Jim Halperts. It's the no theme in particular, ridiculously easy rapid fire round. The score you get in this round will be added to your score from the previous rounds. There will be 40 seconds for everyone to answer from the same set of questions. We're going to start with the team with the highest number of points. That's Ronan and Andy. Then onto the team in second, which is Joe and Phil. And then onto the team in last. That's you, Nathan and Shane. If you get a question correct, I will ask you another question and keep asking you questions until you get one wrong. And then once you get a question wrong, I'll move on to the next team, and your incorrect answer also means the deduction of 1 point. You ready? Ronan and Andy, you're first up. Your 40 seconds begins with having my cut opened again with a trophy in coppers.
My cut opened up again as I got hit by the trophy in coppers on the dance floor.
Who did Luis Suarez bite at the 2014 World Cup?
Chiellini.
Correct. Which actor famously went drinking with the Dublin Miners in 2012 after they won the All-Ireland?
Daniel Radcliffe.
Correct. Alan Irwin of Sky Sports News on Deadline Day in September 2014 had what poked in his ear?
Dildo.
Correct. What colour was it?
Pardon?
What colour was it?
Purple.
Correct. How many own goals did Mayo score in the 2017 All-Ireland final? None. That was 2016. Which team bottled a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl in 2017? Joe and Phil.
Seahawks.
No, Atlanta Falcons. Who refereed the controversial 2010 Leinster final when Louth were robbed by Meath? Correct. Which side of Radamel Falcao scores biggest haul of goals for an English football this decade?
Chelsea.
No, Manchester United. Who roared "See you all" in coppers from the steps of the Hogan stand, Ronan?
Michael Darren McCullough.
No, Brian Cullen. Doesn't matter, you're the winners. Big fat crappy quiz of the decade.
The whole thing is a joke.
It wasn't a joke, really. Your performance was a joke. Didn't even manage to get in second place.
No one saw us coming.
No one did see this coming.
Unbelievable.
What a year it's been for Off the Ball.
Declan Rice is Irish.
That would have changed everything. That's Shane's takeaway from the whole decade.
Well, there's worse things we can learn. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
What have you got against Mayo people?
What do you want to get against Mayo
Well,
people?
you're trying to screw us over day in, day out.
Screw yourselves over. Just how you just manage to do it to yourselves all the time. Hopefully, new decade, new tidings for people in Mayo. For everybody at home, happy Christmas. Can we get one last big cheer? Thank you, and congratulations to Off the Brawl. See you next week on the Crappy Quiz. Next year, really.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Off the Ball 2019 IMRO Radio Awards Sports Programme of the Year.
Salah takes the shot. Oh, Mo Salah with one of the goals of the season.
Who will see their dreams turn into reality? Whose names will be etched in history forever?
Offtheball.com, best online publisher at the 2019 Spider Awards.
A big breaking story on offtheball.com for you this morning. We have the very latest on the Mayo leaks. We now know what went on in that secretive Mayo County Board meeting.
2019 Irish Sponsorship Awards Best Radio Sponsorship, OTB Super Value GAA Roadshows.
Well, when she comes back, get your arse back here, he said. Star is out sitting on the swing and Darren O'Sullivan is pushing him.
OTB Sports Radio, live online 24/7 on the Go Loud app.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
From music to rock out to, chill out to, and dance to. From sweater weather to workout playlists. Whatever mood you're in, Go Loud has music to match. Download the Go Loud app now or add us on your smart speaker. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio, and music to your ears.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
I would like the way Andy Lee actually went for it and gave it the full proper I've just won the world title celebration. Like it, you know, what's unexpected is great. You did screw Shane Hannon on the Declan Rice thing.
Well, no, I didn't.
And you screwed multiple people by asking them to answer. You were babying your favourites through it with like a one-part answer instead of a two-part answer.
That's not the case whatsoever. In fact, the reason why Andy and Ronan won is because they actually picked up other people's wrong answers.
Well, Ronan was a superstar. That's why that definitely helped.
Exactly. So there was no babying anybody through.
You were babying everybody else through. You were like trying to curry favour with Mayo from the baiting that you were taking from him.
My favourite part of the Big Fat Crappy Quiz of the year every year is Joe's involvement. It's like two cultures colliding. It's like, welcome to this piece of frivolous broadcasting. And it's... sorry, no, very serious broadcasting, of course.
And what?
And let's see how you enjoy it. So it's kind of throwing something that... It's throwing a fish onto land, basically, is right.
10 minutes past 9 this morning here on OTB AM, broadcasting on OTB Sports Radio. You should listen to us all day today because we're live all the way up until 10 o'clock today. Full coverage of our take on the decade across the day. You can get in touch, you can get involved. It's our decade in a day. Use the hashtag OTB Decade on Twitter, or of course on the live streams. So the hardest working lads in showbiz are Eoin and Tommy, because after this show, which they've been doing from 7 o'clock this morning, they're doing another show. Some might put that down to megalomania, I'm not sure. Between 10 and 11, it's the Gaelic Football Review of the Decade. Eoin and Tommy with guests Kieran Donaghy and Ciara Trant. Between 11 and 12, it's the Football Soccer Review of the Decade. Phil and Colin are presenting. Our guests are Damien Delaney, Gary Breen and Mark Lawrenson. 12 to 1, heading towards 20 by 20. Sue Murphy is presenting. Roisin Upton and Sinead Ahern are the guests. Golf Weekly Review of the Decade. There must be a mistake here, right? There has to be a little mistake in it. So this is Nathan's concept today, the entire review of the decade. There are 2 hours down for a golf review of the decade.
Excuse me?
Between 1 and 3 o'clock today, it is back-to-back hours of golf. It's the longest slot in the whole day, and it's Nathan and Joe and Fionn talking about the golf review of the decade. I don't even know if they've got any guests. It might just be the three lads stroking their chins.
Well, they're going to come up at the top of the show and say this was Ireland's most successful sport over the last 10 years.
I mean, 2 hours of golf.
It probably was Ireland's. It was a decade of golf. I think good luck to Golf Weekly. I can't wait to tune in.
Paul McGinley, Peter Lowry and Stephanie Mello are part of that for you between 1 and 3. Hurling obviously only gets an hour. Football gets an hour. Soccer gets an hour. Rugby gets an hour. Golf gets 2 hours. I mean, you know. Yeah. The hurling review of the decade has Nicky English and Tommy Walsh with Will O'Callaghan presenting. It only gets an hour. Can you do justice to all those amazing semi-finals? The decade of Joe, the end of the Kilkenny era.
You're not going to be able to do justice.
The rebirth of Tipperary.
No matter if you had all day, you probably wouldn't be able to do justice to them. So I will say for our football hour, we're going less moments-based and more overall-based on how football's changed over the last hour. So maybe golf is going to go the opposite way and actually just go hole by hole.
It's rugby from 4 to 5. It is the Irish Football Review of the Decade. Nathan and Johnny are going to be on alongside Stewie Kilcaban and Stephanie Rhodes. That's between 5 and 6. Off the Brawl Review of the Decade, Ronan Phil and Andy Lee. That's where Andy has already broken the news that he's now going to be part of Tyson Fury's camp for the Deontay Wilder fight. And 7 to half 7, the show is live this evening. Between 7:30 and 8, we will crown the winner of the most memorable Irish sporting moment of the decade. That is tonight, where it is Shane Lowry up against Katie Taylor. You can vote for either of those two now on any of our social platforms. Now, I want to go back because the big news in the last 24 hours is over the front of all of the newspapers, and it's Shane Ross and the performance yesterday at the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Sport, Tourism and Transport. The Irish Times had some interesting details about the PFAI asking FIFPro for some clarification about what the actual status of the league would be if the FAI were to be allowed to go wallop. And because that was picked up, I thought it might be interesting to hear from the PFAI this morning. I'm delighted to say Stephen McGuinness is on the line. Stephen, this is important that actually we get some clarity on this, and it's clear that you've been working away in the background to get as much clarity as you possibly can for your members. Can you maybe take us back to the point where you thought to ask FIFPro to get some clarification? Because obviously, you know, FIFPro is an organisation that I think people will know has a massive footprint and has some power and influence and might actually be a very important player in this down the line.
Yeah, I suppose first of all, Gerald, we were actually scheduled to meet the Minister yesterday, myself and Siptu were, in relation to, obviously, with the women's international team, the ring fencing of money there, and just in general in regard to the 300 plus professional players that we represent in the league. So obviously when the comments were made yesterday, a number of our members, including the captain of Dundalk and our chairman, Gary Rogers, obviously made public their stance on it and how disappointed they were on the comments without any clarity behind them. So I had obviously contacted FIFPro and Roy Vermeer, who's the solicitor there, to get some clarity from the UEFA on a situation where a federation went insolvent. Now, what was interesting was it actually never happened. The closest in Europe was Greece. what the feedback we had from UEFA would be that there wouldn't be an effect to our clubs in regards to prize money or European places, but that the league could continue without the federation in place once there's a new federation being set up. And as we know, the Premier League in England, for example, isn't connected to the FA. So the league could still run and complete. This prize money would still be able to be distributed. And obviously then you would need it. The federation, there needs to be a league. For the federation to have an international team, but you need to have a federation, obviously, for UEFA to be able to distribute money. So in that period, yes, the league could still run. I think just the comments that were made yesterday, we were lucky enough there to obviously speak to Minister Griffin and to Sheahan last night, and we did seek some clarity on it, and they put out a statement last night that in some way cleared up the situation again, because obviously we talk about grassroots football all the time, and it's really, really important. Everybody knows that. But there's people whose livelihood this game is. So it's not just the kids who play and the parents and the volunteers who are hugely important. At the very top end of our game, we have 300 people who get paid to play this game in this country. And it's vital that they're acknowledged as well, that it's not just about grassroots. The elite end of the game here suffers in a situation where the federation was to go bust.
Yeah, that's why I was so shocked at the willy-nilly nature of the fact that, the league would disappear too. There's no reason for the league to disappear if the federation was to go bust. The clubs could form a breakaway. The clubs could form a breakaway now. I mean, we all remember that the FAI was not in control of the league not that recently, or not that long ago,
Mid-2000s, yeah. Mid-2000s, the league was run independently. The Premier League is run independently of the FA. So the suggestion that we can't have a league here without the federation is unfounded. Obviously, you need a federation for UEFA to be able to distribute money through and all that, and we get all that side of things. But there was just the way it was said yesterday. I think the ministers were putting scenarios that maybe they weren't fully briefed on. And I had an opportunity last night to speak to both of them and to clear up about the captain at Dundalk, Ryan Gareth, and our chairman, Gary Rogers, to ensure that our members were fully aware that, look, this league can continue to run. But it shows you, I think it needs cool heads at the moment. There's lots of statements going out. It's back and forward. It needs people to have cool heads to look at this situation. There's obviously meetings upcoming between UEFA and government, but it really does need cool heads here for people to look at this and to ensure that Irish football is put on the best foothold possible. Because there's too many people, as I said, whose livelihoods rely on this. Like, there's full-time people at football clubs, there's physios, there's doctors, there's coaches, there's players. This game isn't just, it continues to hear grassroots all the time. And it is vital. But we have an elite game here where people's livelihood, and it is their jobs. It's not just something that they do for fun. This is their actual job. And it's important that people at the very top, from the minister, from the government's point of view, that they're aware of that. And we were glad last night that we got that clarity.
Okay, so talk to us about what you would actually like to see. Cool heads, 100% agree, and actually that's why it's important that you do have access to the FIFPro, who can actually legitimately just call somebody in UEFA and get clarity straight away. Like, I'm not sure at the moment that the government appear to have that communication line where they can go, well, what would the situation be? What would the scenario be? And they should know those scenarios. They should have done that work. And I don't know if it was the department or if it's actually the ministers themselves who should be asking these questions of the department to find those answers out for them. Because, as you say, this is a very public forum yesterday where they go out and they make these statements. And I'm sure if you were working in football, and we were making the case, if you're thinking of investing in the League of Ireland, if you're a sponsor at a local level who might be interested in getting involved, and you hear that yesterday, you're like, well, I'm not going to just put any money in right now because I don't know if this league is going to exist in 3 months or 6 months. And that's why it's very important that the message goes out that the league will continue to exist irrespective of what's going on.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. And look, I was lucky enough to be in a position yesterday to be able to speak directly to the two ministers, have their aides, Ken Spratt, who put the network and stuff around it, which means now that Sport Ireland have now pulled ourselves and the clubs in to discuss a doomsday scenario to make sure that all the information is there. We expect to hear about that in the next couple of days. So where all the stakeholders sit around the table and say, look, here is the scenarios, here's the doomsday scenarios. Now, we can argue now whether that should have been done prior to yesterday and if this was a reality. But obviously in the meeting that the Minister had with the FAI the other night, obviously examinership was something that Grant Thornton brought up, and possibly insolvency. I don't know whether that was discussed or not. But them scenarios need to be teased out, and there is a meeting with Sport Ireland who obviously will contact UEFA direct to ensure that they have the best information, and we'll have far more clarity on it. But just on the initial one, as we've just said, there's no way this league should be allowed to fold, will be allowed to fold, and the clubs are run separate businesses. And I've said this a couple of times, with all due respect to the FAI, it's not as if they're putting a huge amount into the league. if we're being bluntly honest here, they don't put a huge amount into the league. The league, when it broke away, was the right decision to make because it needed to be run independently of the clubs for a period of time. But we're probably at a stage now where the clubs really do need to look at them. There's obviously the Kira Lucid model, and there's other models out there where the league is run separately from the FAI, and I do think that is going to happen ultimately. But it's important, as I said already, people have cool heads, sit down logically and look at the scenarios that we're in. But the bigger picture stuff needs to be addressed as well. Like, I mean, we do need a functioning federation to ensure that the game continues to go.
Are you suggesting that as soon as that new federation is solved and the current situation is, I guess, bypassed or whatever may happen, that the League of Ireland then breaks away as its own organisation, no longer under the FAI or whatever guise the FAI might end up being?
Yeah, I think long term I've been at enough meetings and discussions now, and I do think that is the way it's going to go. There's obviously elements to the federation that you would need in regard to club licensing and in regard to the disciplinary side of things. I think there's still uses for it, but in regards to running it, I do think personally that it needs to push away from the FAI now.
Stephen, could I just ask as well, I know it's kind of moving it away from what happened yesterday specifically, but even over the course of the years that have been since the League of Ireland has come back under the FAI umbrella, was there a sense even from your perspective that perhaps the league was being held back by the FAI?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely, 100%. I think initially when we moved, which was 2005, I think when we moved first, and I've no problem saying this, John Delaney initially was within the first year done more in the first 2 weeks he was in charge than had been done previously in the previous 5 years. We were looking for standard players contract to be implemented, and he implemented that overnight. And there was a new dawn coming in, and lots of us, and I just took over as running the PFA. I said, we are going to a new dawn here, new standard players contract. We're going to see a whole new branding of the league. We're going to see investment from the federation. We're going to see new grounds. Unfortunately, we didn't see any of that. We saw an initial, we're going to do this, and then gone. And ultimately what happened was we don't know the value of our league. Everything was rolled into the international team, and the prize money, quite frankly, is embarrassing for what it is for our clubs to win the league. And the prize money right down to the bottom, it nearly costs you money to enter the league. The reason we don't have, we should have a queue of teams looking to play in our league. You look across leagues in America and Australia, queues of teams trying to get into the MLS, trying to get into Australia, trying to get into any leagues all over the world. In ours, we have nobody queuing up to come in. We have a scenario now in the first division where we're looking for Shamrock Rovers B to make up 10 teams. It's not attractive to come into our league. And we need to make it attractive. We need to make it that if you come into our league, you can actually make them. It's a proper business structure. We assist kids, you can develop. We've none of that. And it costs huge amount of money to run a League of Ireland club. You see Limerick just go to the wall recently. And one of the litany of clubs in the last 10 to 15 years that's happened. So it hasn't been good. Initially we thought it would have been. Hasn't worked out that way, unfortunately. And I do think the clubs need to take ownership of the league themselves, and there's been enough discussions around it. Whether the hybrid model and use pieces of the FAI, as we said already, whether it's the disciplinary, the club licensing piece of it, whatever, but it has to be run separately. And what has happened is a lot of the money that was coming into the league went into this black hole within the FAI, and nobody seems to know what the value of the league was, what the sponsorship deals, no TV monies, and with a really bright future of our game, if we can get this piece of it right now. I think you see the young players that are coming through. I think the coaching, everything is miles ahead of where it was at, and we're starting to see the route to that coming through. And unfortunately, it's bad timing that the federation has found itself in such depth.
Do you feel like now, and after the meeting last night, that the players will be a stakeholder whose voice is heard in this phase of what's happening? Because it's difficult to make sure that all the stakeholders actually do get their say. We had that the event in the Mansion House a while back now, and I don't know if anything actually came from it or if that was just another Shane Ross vehicle. Ultimately, we've just lost Stephen McGuinness there. We'll get back to him. See if we can get an answer to that question. But I think it's clear that some people have actually got access to find out information. The PFAI are an organisation who do have access to find out information. And so suddenly you get a correction from this scenario yesterday where the minister in a showpiece is actually putting out something which is demonstrably false. Now, maybe it's through not doing enough work. Maybe it's through not finding out the right, not asking the right questions. Who knows why Shane Ross didn't know that yesterday? Stephen, sorry, I'm just going to ask that question again. Do you feel now like you representing the players and the players will have a voice as stakeholders in this situation into the future?
Yeah, I think a couple of things have changed, Ger, since March. A couple of key things have changed. The governance review took place. Whether it went far enough or not is another argument, but the players have, through the PFA have found ourselves now on council. So for the very first time, we find ourselves in a situation where we do have a voice at the table, albeit two positions in a 79-person council. We have representation on the International Committee and a representation on the Underage Committee. So we now find ourselves in a situation where we actually have a voice at the table now for the first time. Like, it was incredible that, and with all due respect to the defence forces who do great work and whatever, colleges and universities, they have been in council for the last 20, 30, 40 years. The players have been excluded from it. And people had possibly agendas, I don't know, but for not have player representation at any level in the FAI, I would have questioned from the first day I got involved in football in Ireland. Thankfully, we're at that table now, so we have a voice. It's only at the start of it. I think there's huge problems at council level. I think when you look at the culture of the organisation and you really want to make change, we're picking from the same pool, Jared, every time. We're picking from the same pool of people to go on the board, to go on the committees, and that really does need to be looked at, because people who have been there for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, they have been part of a culture which was driven by a CEO at the very top that nobody questions. And are these people still the ones fit to drive our game forward? That's the big question that we have to ask, and that's where people have to look at themselves and the organisation they're involved in, and are we fit to run the game as it stands right now? Is the council and the people involved in British football the right ones to continue to drive the game forward?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and it's obviously one that we're going to keep a close eye on. But just to wrap this up, the final message from you is that what we heard yesterday in the Dáil committee isn't factually correct. What we heard last night from the statement, the joint statement from the Minister and the Deputy Minister, that's closer to the truth. But you were much stronger. You said that this league is not going to disappear, and nor should it be allowed to go, and it won't be allowed to go.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I think it's unprecedented waters, Jared, that no federation has ever become insolvent. So it is uncharted waters. But from the information that we have from FIFA through UEFA, is that they can't see a reason for it. Now, there's obviously going to be meetings with ourselves, the clubs and Sport Ireland to tease out the exact situation. If the situation came along, we're all very hopeful. Nobody wants that from the Minister, I'm sure, from the Taoiseach. Nobody wants to see professional football and our game, more important, to go insolvent. So it's in everybody's interest to ensure that doesn't happen. You would hope that the people at the very top of government in our own country, the top of the FAI, the people who are on the board now, do everything in their power to work together. And it needs cool heads. The statements coming back and forward. People need to keep cool heads and ensure that our game is protected above everything. And personal interests or whatever's going on at the very top end of it needs to keep the heads cool and ensure they make the right decisions for Irish football.
All right, Stephen McGuinness, thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Tom.
It's the PFAI General Secretary, Stephen McGuinness, giving us his thoughts there. Right, let's move on. Last night, Joe, Ronan, Rory O'Connor and Johnny Ward got talking the pros and cons of Rory McIlroy's profile.
When sports people are honest, we often shoot them down for it. And then we'd rather a polished someone who says nothing like Katie Taylor, you know, thank God and good luck, you know. I mean, Rory McIlroy's given some of the best interviews you'll ever see. Yeah. But his honesty probably, you know, he might be higher up on that list if he was more corporate. Yeah. I mean, he's very corporate. I mean, he's lots of good sponsors. I'm not saying it's kind of held him back in that regard. I'd say he's probably more popular among American golf fans than he is among casual Irish fans.
I would think
so. Maybe overestimated.
No, I would think he's unbelievably popular in
Whose
America.
achievement is better this year? McIlroy's consistency over the 12 months or Lowry in that one-off unbelievable success? You're the golf man.
You win the Open, though. Unfortunately for Rory, yeah, you win the Open. He'd swap it all for a major. But Rory's consistency has been phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And it's just taken for granted. In fact, it's almost listed as a bit of a failure for him.
That's a much better barometer for success, to be consistently good over a year than to win a one-off tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Surely. In any other sport.
He's a better golfer than Shane Lowry. Even Shane Lowry would concede that point.
Yeah.
It's just Lowry caught fire for 4 days. I like McIlroy very much, I have to say, even though he's a bit flawed. But he's the most interesting golfer in the world after Tiger.
Yeah. He's from an hour up the road.
Hour up the road, 4 majors. He is inarguably the sports person from this island of the decade.
Best Menswear have the men in your life sorted this Christmas. They've got gifts from top brands like Hugo Boss, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein and Marco Capelli, and gifts from as little as 20 quid. All this week on OTB AM, thanks to Best Menswear. We've got prizes every morning to help you in the build-up to Christmas. Anybody who's entered the draw this morning, just tell us about the best sporting event that you attended this decade, is in the hat for a €150 made-to-measure Best Menswear shirt. This morning, Eoin is bringing us a gift guide to the sporting events of 2020. Where should you go? What should you see? And how should you go about buying your way there?
Interesting subject. We may as well start with the golf, since the lads were talking about the golf. Irish Open's always a good gift. I think anything that's got a bit of proximity to Christmas kind of has a bit more of punch to it. Of course, the Irish Open pushed forward to the end of May this year in Lahinch. Always a good Christmas present for the golf.
Mount Juliet.
Not in your life. Sorry, Mount Juliet. What am I talking about? Lahinch last year. But it pushed forward to the 27th, 28th of May, whatever the Thursday is. So, yeah, I know will you be down there yourself?
I got out to Mount Juliet, it's very nice, yeah, it's great.
Have you played it before?
I have. I stewarded around Mount Juliet when the Irish Open was there and John Daly was playing, so we got to steward around for John Daly, which was pretty class.
That's not bad.
Oh, it was amazing.
When was this?
This was like the early 90s. So he was peak wild thing. I remember on the 18th, because it was the Pro-Am. We were stewarding him for that day and the next day, and on the Wednesday, on the 18th, he hit his ball deliberately over to the practice area to see if he could get the best line into, because most people couldn't carry the practice area, and he was like, this was pretty impressive.
For anybody,
he was off the booze at the time as well, and was giving out about the fizzy water, making him want to go back on the booze.
I would always maintain that golf is arguably the best television sport out there, but it's a vastly different experience when you're actually at it. For anybody, especially around the locality, who are kind of considering, the golf has come to town, do I go see it? The answer to that question is yes.
Yeah, you've got to follow people around.
Yes, exactly.
You can't be...
So it's entirely different to the television experience where you follow everybody.
Yeah, I don't think you can sit and watch just one thing in one spot. That would be my experience.
No, you can do that for some of the day. And follow someone for 9 holes and then get a good spot camping around the turn. And that's often a decent enough tactic. But it kind of depends on what stage of the tournament you're at. Like if you're going on the Thursday, for example, you'd be able to pick up a ticket, I think for around 70 quid or something like that. I'm literally just looking on Viagogo at the moment. For juniors, obviously, it's much cheaper. If you wanted to spend a little bit more for the GEA lover in your life, a season ticket is always a good idea.
How much is a season ticket?
Of course, if you're from Dublin or Mayo,
you can't get one.
You can't get one. So
are there waiting lists?
There are waiting lists. I don't know if there's waiting lists because I actually haven't heard the idea of waiting lists mentioned. I just know that it's renewals only for those. So perhaps, I think the renewal window is still open. So perhaps in a couple of weeks' time when people from Dublin or Mayo haven't renewed, there might be a few more openings. So it's €120 for an adult. For a juvenile, it's only 30 quid. So if you're someone who's bringing your kid along to all the games, then
it's great value.
Yeah, it's great value. And granted, Mayo and Dublin, you're taking out two of the big hitters. If you happen to be from a Kerry or maybe a Donegal or a Tyrone, and you've got a possibility of perhaps making it to the end of August. /start. It is in August next year, the final. You will be guaranteed a ticket, assuming you make, I think it's 60% of games. It could be 70%, but it would be no more than that. That includes all the league games. You get all your league games for free. You get one championship game for free, I think it is, and then there may be a discount after that. As a season ticket holder, I should probably notice a little bit more. But either way, it's €120, all your league games covered. And I know it's a fairly common Christmas present this time of year. You can get a full club one as well, where you can get all the club games in your county on top of your county team, and that's €200.
Right.
So if you're going to be spending €80 going to club games every year, first of all, you're an unbelievably dedicated club man or woman. But second of all, there's probably better value to do that. Something that you mentioned earlier on in the show, Istanbul next year, May the 30th, Champions League, flights at the moment, return flights, just having a quick look at Skyscanner, about €240 from Dublin.
Right.
So not bad. That's to fly out the day beforehand and fly home the day after.
Right, direct.
The match. Direct.
Right.
Yeah. Turkish Airlines.
Right, that's pretty good.
It's not bad. So I presume if you're flying from Manchester, maybe it's a bit more expensive. Manchester City expected to get to the final.
Yeah, what are the odds at this point of Liverpool making it? Pretty good. Manchester City making it, I think Real Madrid are going to knock them out, but that's I'm in a minority position on that one. And if they don't, it looks like it's going to be a good Champions League. There are no bad teams left.
absolutely not. You've also made the point that buying flights to Barcelona is not a bad idea around the time when Barcelona have a home game, and just get to the new camp to see Messi.
You've got to see Leo Messi. Like, you will always regret not seeing Leo Messi play in the flesh if you don't go and see Leo Messi play in the flesh. Yeah. So I went to a Clasico. Went to a Clasico when the Galacticos were playing.
Oh,
might have been the end of the last decade. So that wouldn't have made this one. But it was Ronaldo, Zidane, Figo, Beckham, Roberto Carlos, and they won 2-1 against I think it was Ronaldinho and Messi. I need to check who was on the team for. Definitely seen Ronaldinho play, but he might have gone. But yeah,
previous incarnation of that team. Rugby tickets, always a good one. Obviously, kind of tough to get your hands on Six Nations tickets at the moment unless you're signed up with the fan club, all that sort of thing. Few will become more available close to the time, so provincial tickets, never a bad thing. You've got a few good inter-pro derbies later in the season because of the World Cup this year, so you're going to get decent weather for, you'd hope, in April time for Leinster against Munster. If you want to buy somebody tickets for Thomond and Munster Connacht on May 29th, looks like a nice one. Nice and late, balmy weather potentially. Of course, Leinster on December 12th as well, another possibility for people living around Dublin, rugby fans. And then finally, next summer, College Football Classic, August 2020. The time is almost upon us for any American football lover. I don't think tickets are fully on sale just yet. They'll be rolled out over the next couple of months. And by all accounts, fairly...
That might sell out before it
Did the last College Football Classic sell out, the one in 2014?
Which game was that?
Oh God, I actually can't remember what the game was, but...
The one in Croker didn't. I'm not sure about the one in the Aviva.
Okay, so the one in Croker didn't, yeah. But yeah, if American football on this island, you saw it over there, like it's obviously a fairly high quality game and not a bad gift either. So you got your golf, you got your GAA, you got your rugby, and you've got your American football cover there. Of course, there could be the hypothetical situation of buying tickets to Ireland against Northern Ireland in Belfast. Close to the summer, if you're in March.
Taking weekends and going to watch sport, it's a great excuse to go somewhere. Like, Jurgen Klinsmann is currently managing a team in Berlin. Who needs an excuse to go to Berlin?
Well, I had tickets to go see Union Berlin last year, but I slept in when I was in Berlin. The most stupid thing I've ever done in my life. It was a midday kickoff, in fairness.
I mean, buying the tickets was a bit silly.
It was just the day before. It was looking like it was going to sell out, and they were very cheap. But
yeah. But then you went out all night clubbing.
Basically, which was shouldn't have gone. Going to sleep was the stupid thing I did, really.
Yeah.
But missed that, so I might have to make up for that soon. So yeah, he's in charge of Hertha Berlin at the moment.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to Berlin in January, and I think Hertha are playing Bayern that very weekend. So that's a very, very good idea for that particular excursion. Jared, thank you very much.
Are you going clubbing?
No. Well, no, I'll be going footballing, won't I? Going to watch football matches first of all, and then if there's a time to do anything else, then I'll do that. So you've definitely skewed my priorities. So yeah, 19th of January, half two kickoff, and that'll be Irish time. So it's a 3:30 kickoff. That is perfect. Perfect. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
That's my lot. For the gift guide, the best menswear gift guide this morning.
There you go. All right. If anybody has any other suggestions for us, you can use the hashtag OTBDecade for us today, and that's the competition as well. Tell us about the best sporting event that you attended this decade, and you could be in the hat for €150 made-to-measure best menswear shirts. We have you covered with best menswear this Christmas. Now, last week on OTB AM, we brought you the story of Luke Keaney, the Donegal footballer who had to retire at the age of 25 due to crippling injuries that he received while training and playing GAA at the highest level. His story struck a chord with many people around the country, and his piece got a huge response. You can watch the full thing up on YouTube, or you can listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Best place to do that is obviously on the Go Loud app. Up next, we're going to talk to the former Tyrone footballer Philip Jordan, who tweeted this last week: having had to retire at 32 after 2 hip operations, I feel very fortunate that I got to play for so long. After listening to Luke Keaney, I hope his story can be a catalyst for change within the GAA. And it's the fixture calendar is one of the things that he's talking about there as well. Philip Jordan joins us next. Here's a snippet of Luke's story.
The GAA as a whole, no matter if you're the best player for that calendar year or you're a 5-time All-Star or 7-time All-Ireland winner, it doesn't really matter. The GAA has a duty of care to the player. So at the end of the day, if we're representing and we're doing our most for our club and our parish, and something happens, the minimum you should expect, is to be looked after. And in my case, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Until the GPA stepped in.
And that's clear that was a hugely important moment in this. Roy Keane had that famous quote about players being a piece of meat whenever Jaap Stam got transferred off. You must feel a little bit like that.
Yeah, like...
You were useful for a period of time. When you weren't useful...
You're thrown away. And that's probably something that I still kind of ask why, you know, and I think that's a bigger issue that everyone needs to realise, that chat any inter-county footballer or hurler, if you're in the sideline, it's the loneliest spot. And that's the way it is. You know, like, it's different when it's your career and you're working your way back to get back to fitness, to get your wage for your job. But in the GA, if you're not training, you're a nobody. And that's the long and the short of it.
That's former Donegal footballer Luke Keaney talking to us on the show last week. Philip Jordan is with us this morning to talk to us about his story. Philip, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, Ger.
How did your career come to an end? What was the hip injuries you suffered?
I suppose I ended up getting both hips repaired, the labrum repaired, a bit like Luke, I think, had on his good hip as such. Probably when my problem started in 2004 when I got hip pain, and was probably been treated more for a groin injury at the time. Ended up getting a scan, and that showed up that I had a tear in my right, the labrum which surrounds your hip joint, and which obviously then that's caused by a bit of a bone sticking out. So at that stage, I probably got an injection into it and managed to play on for, I suppose it ended up 8 years before I got that hip operated on once I'd retired. So in the meantime as well, then I got the same injury on my left hip and got it operated on in 2009. So I was finished with the county in 2011 and played a year with the club post that, and was struggling probably to get through games, was getting a lot of pain in the whole, that mid area, groin and hip. And 2012, when I was trying to get back playing a bit more football as well, I eventually got sent down to Eoin Falvey, who used to be the Irish rugby doctor down at Santry. And I suppose he had no loyalty to me in terms of he wasn't treating me or hadn't been part of any teams that I played for, and Eoin just looked at the scans and said, look, if you continue to play football, you're just going to do more permanent damage and you're going to bring on a hip replacement in a shorter time frame. So my advice is that you should pull the pin if you want to look after yourself for the long-term health. And I suppose when I heard that from someone as highly respected as Eoin, plus that had no loyalty, and that was someone like us on the outside, that's when I made the decision then that take that advice and pull the pin in terms of playing football altogether at that stage.
Is there anything that would have altered that outcome if you'd had treatment earlier on?
I suppose possibly. I suppose when this tear in the hip joint was found in 2004, I went on and played for 8 years, which certainly wouldn't be advisable, I don't think, for anyone probably to play so long with that without getting it repaired. If it had been repaired quicker, certainly the arthritis wouldn't have set in, that's I suppose the biggest issue in terms of long-term damage. I suppose as a player, you don't want till your season goes on for so long. Certainly I was fortunate playing for Tyrone, that were competitive and with long seasons, then that obviously delays the club season, so you have to finish that out as well. And I suppose in terms of Luke, having heard Luke's story, his is slightly different in that I suppose Luke was battling probably to get a position in the senior setup. He was on the fringes of the team and didn't feel that he could take the time out maybe till stand back and take that decision, maybe to move away from it for 3 or 4 months. Whereas I suppose as my career went on, I did prefer quite a few league campaigns out anyway, and only maybe come back playing in April, and that probably allowed me, I suppose, to play on till 31 with the county. Whereas if I had been on the fringe of the team and pushing it and not taking that time maybe to do a bit of prehab, then I probably could have been finished quite a bit earlier. But I suppose ultimately if I had to get the hip operated on at an earlier stage, that may have landed my career. And look, when I finished playing with the county, it wasn't anything to do with injuries. It was I wanted to give a bit of time to my club as well, and that's probably the one, I suppose, regret that I had, that I only got one season with my club after I finished playing with the county. And that's, I suppose, my own club with the two Kavanagh brothers and Ryan Mallon. We suffered greatly without us being available for all the games, so that's certainly a regret that I never got the opportunity to give back to the club, probably what they had sacrificed in terms of me playing for the county.
It's interesting that you said a few moments ago that NFLV had the advantage of actually just being separate to the Tyrone setup. He never worked with you previously. Like, was your sense previously from not even medical professionals, but people within setups, that because they were involved and were invested in the success of your team, that they kind of pushed you through things that perhaps you shouldn't have been pushed through?
No, to be fair, I don't think they would have. I think, I suppose they're in a difficult position as well, where they're, I suppose, constrained by budgets themselves as well, so they can't send players for scans every so often to check how an injury's progressing, and look, the players are pushing them as well to get back. Look, I remember when I joined the county squad, getting cortisone injections was sort of a thing that was nearly not frowned upon, but it was a last resort type thing, and it come to a stage where certainly I would have went to the medical team and says, look, this isn't getting any better, can we get an injection here to try and get me back playing when it's come to championship time? And look, I think probably every sport's the same. Certainly when you get to the stage of when it's during league football, I suppose I was able to take the decision to take that bit of time as well, because if I knew if I got back fit that there was a good chance I could still get my starting place in the team. So, but when it comes championship season, you didn't want to be missing any championship matches, and I think the medical teams are in a tough position as well, that the players are pushing them plus the management's pushing them, so they're sort of in a rock and a hard place, and I don't think any medical person as well wants to say to you, look, your decision should be you should retire from football. Ultimately that decision has to come down to the player, but if somebody again like Eoin has no loyalty, he doesn't know you, he's just going to look at the cold face, and he's never going to see me again once I walk out through the door, so it's very easy for him to say, I suppose from a medical perspective, what I should do. And I suppose when you become friendly with the medical team as well, like, those people are your friends at the end of the day, and they don't want to make the decision for you. They can give you all the medical advice and tell you what the potential long-term damage is, but none of them that you're going to say you should retire from football, and I totally understand that. If I was in their position, I would be the exact same as well.
So did you end up getting cortisone injections into your hip?
Yeah, I would have had, I think, probably on both sides. I probably had 2 to 3 on each one, probably over my career in different parts of the body. I ended up, I think, with 12 or 13 is what it was, which isn't ideal, but I suppose that's what, as a player, you just want to get out in the field and play championship football, and that's really what drives those decisions at the end of the day. Certainly in pre-season time, certainly during league campaigns, it wouldn't have been something I'd been looking at, and the medical team would have been pushing us away from that all the time, but ultimately that's sometimes what gets you back playing, and that's what the decision you make sometimes when it comes for championship football.
Do you remember what happened in 2004? Was there a single incident which caused the original tear?
No, I don't remember anything really happening as such. It's probably we were beaten by Mayo in the quarter-final, so I suppose we were finished reasonably early, probably start of August, and I was down with the international rules squad at the time and just felt this groin pain getting sore and sore, and then eventually just had to pull out because I wasn't fit to basically run beyond 5 yards, and I suppose I was getting treated for groin, but I suppose that's, from a medical perspective, it's very difficult to find exactly, without scanning the area, where is the problem, is it hip or is it groin? I ended up getting 2 hernia operations as well, so obviously that midsection I had a lot of problems with throughout my career, but ended up getting a scan then eventually because the pain wasn't easing. That's what spotted, I suppose, the hip tear. But I do remember probably the second one, which come about, it started giving me bother on, I think, 2009, and I do remember just suddenly getting a lot of pain, whether that was something that happened during training or whatever that just come about, but I suppose ultimately those injuries come from a lot of wear and tear, and I suppose certainly Gaelic footballers seem to be exposed to that sort of injury due to the nature of the twisting and turning and the short sprinting that the game entails.
And the long form running, I think that's the other thing. It's like the running. So one of talking to Luke, one of the things was they would do a hard session. He'd get back in the car and sit in the car and not stretch for 3 or 4 hours afterwards, and then get back in the car the next morning, go back for another meeting, and then get back in the car again. And at the end of that, he was feeling that the body just didn't have time to recover from the training sessions. Was that part of what was going on with you guys as well, or is this just that your hips degenerated and irrespective of the amount of stuff that you were doing, you were going to have issues?
I certainly think my running style, probably would have a fairly crouched over running style, so probably I suppose I was going to be susceptible to that throughout my career. I suppose when you look at having listened to Luke's story, like he was hitting the game when the level of intensity in training, when I was finishing my career, I'd have thought, look, the effort that's gone into playing Gaelic football, the amount of time, the intensity of training sessions can't really go up much more, I would have thought, but certainly from talking to players that are playing, it's went up another couple of notches, and Luke also had the added pressure of playing for multiple teams throughout his career with his university teams, the clubs and the county. I think every Gaelic footballer has an element of that, but certainly I didn't have that probably to the same level as Luke had. But I suppose ultimately it comes, I think the biggest issue is the fixture calendar, and I think the amount of resistance even amongst, we talk about, I suppose everybody likes to point to Croke Park and blame them for a lot of things, but when you look at the criticism of the under-20 championship and the fact that players can't play for their under-20 team and the senior team, I think that shows that the mindset change is required in the organisation. We're the only sport that expects people to play for the same team at different levels. You wouldn't hear of Marcus Rashford playing for Manchester United on the 21s, or likewise in rugby, no Irish player plays on the 21 team. And I think until we change that mindset, that's the biggest. We can criticise Croke Park all we want, but ultimately there's that, I suppose, greed nearly within each team that you want all your players available, but it's not. It's physically not possible for the players, and it's only going to do long-term damage, like we've seen with Luke.
It is greed, isn't it?
That's what it comes down to. Like, it's very. I've been involved with a few teams myself from underage, and it's very, very hard for any manager to look beyond that. Ultimately, especially when it gets to the high stakes of inter-county football, all the managements they're all going to be judged on results, and that's the difficult situation. I was involved with Tyrone 21s about 7 or 8 years ago, and we had university teams. We had the senior team obviously as well, and there was that pull amongst players. We had a certain nights for training. We had agreed with the universities, and then the players would land and train that morning, and they were togged out, ready to go in the field, and we had to tell them, look, go back in. You're no use to us coming out here and training twice in a day, and that's, you get agreements in place, and then they're bypassed, because that, again, it does come to that greed. People just are after their own team and their own results, and those people are under pressure as well to deliver results, but I think it needs to be somebody away from all the teams that makes that decision of what's right for the player and what's wrong for the player. And it's a very difficult thing to get right unless we actually restrict the number of teams a person's playing for.
Do you think a lot of coaches have the same mindset as you, Philip, to actually look at that player and say, no, go back into the dressing room, you're not training with us? Because I think, as you've said there, it's a very difficult thing to do, what you did, to actually tell them, no, you're not training with us today.
And I suppose the biggest issue is the players actually, that day, I do remember the specific day, the players actually come togged out onto the pitch, and then we had, just chatting to one of the players, we found out that they'd actually trained that day, so we knew everybody that was involved with, I think it was Jordantown at that time, everybody that was with Jordantown had obviously trained, and that's the willingness of players. They don't want to let their managers down as well, but that's the fact that they feel that makes them think that every manager expects them to train on every single session, and that mindset is very difficult. I suppose we were always worried because we were an under-21 team. We had 4 or 5 on the senior panel, and we were always worried about how much access we were going to get to those players ourselves. And we were obviously pushing to get access to the players, but you have to take a step back. At the end of the day, it's a short season on the 21s, and if there's 3 teams, we're trying to do, I suppose, some speed work before the championship, and yet they're in the middle of hard sessions with the senior team, and it's very hard to get that balance right. And I think that's why the under-20s, whether it's under-20s or under-21s, people can debate that change in terms of the age group, but if you're going to play, you can only play for one team in my mind, and I think the GA have made a good decision on that front. They've maybe made some poor ones as well when it comes to player welfare, but I think most people in the GA seem to, I suppose, aren't happy with how the under-20s is operated, and that maybe that's throughout the organisation. That's supporters, players, managers, and when you stand back and look at from the, I suppose, the perspective of the player and their long-term health, that's a wise decision, but yet there's so much opposition to it, and that's, again, why I say it's just down purely to completely change the mindset of the GA.
Yeah, well, hopefully people like you telling your story will help with that, because it becomes impossible to ignore a body of evidence where people are coming up and saying, I played too many games over a certain period of time and I put myself at risk. And I don't know if you are going to have hip replacements, Philip. It sounds like at some point in the near future that is in your prognosis.
Yeah, it will be. It'll certainly on my right hip. Hopefully my left hip should be okay. I suppose at this stage it's not arthritic, so I suppose I've made the decision myself as well at this stage that I haven't run from I've retired from football, so trying to limit that sort of impact work that you do in the gym. So again, it limits just simple things. I suppose I'd always had an ambition someday to run a marathon, but that's out the window. It would be impossible to try and do that. Well, physically I probably could get it done, but the long-term damage it's only going to accelerate the damage in the right hip. So I think you have to at this moment I tailor, I suppose, my training in terms of what's going to give me the longest period until I have to get a hip replacement, and that's, I suppose, the decision I've made myself. I'm fortunate enough that I don't have any hip pain on a daily basis, so long may that continue, hopefully.
in your case, you were part of one of the greatest teams of your generation. You're one of the greatest teams in Tyrone, the greatest team in Tyrone Gaelic football history. For you, it might have actually been worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have no hesitation. I wouldn't even have to think about the answer. Certainly, it definitely was worth it. And look, I think Luke touched on it himself as well, that growing up as a kid, the one ambition you have is to play for your county. Yes, you aim for your club, and I suppose anyone that ends up playing for the county, you're going through your club at underage, and you're obviously one of the better players, so you're always comfortable you're going to obviously be successful at your club, but your ambition is always to play for the county, and that's the dream. And every time I put on that jersey, that was an honour, and it's something, I suppose you look back and you're very proud of it, and I was very fortunate that I got to play with some of the greatest players of the last 20 years, so for me it absolutely was worth it. If, as I said, my story I suppose is a bit different than Luke's in that I didn't have the same pull between different teams, and because I was able to maybe take those McKenna Cup campaigns, part of the league campaigns out and do a bit of prehab, allowed me to extend my career so that I could play county football to 31, and even at that I still could have played on the following year for the county. It was my own choice just at that stage to step away and try and give something back to the club. So yeah. I suppose I had a good stint and was very successful with it, and at this moment in time I don't have any pain, so certainly it was all worth it from my point of view.
Yeah, ultimately the last point here is that the be all and end all, fix the fixtures, give players an off season, let them rest up, let them recuperate and get the health that they need, have an off season.
That's it, absolutely. We're probably, I suppose, as you know, Jerry, I'm an NFL fan as well himself, and I suppose, how they lay out their training schedules and the times where there's an off-season period, plus when they come back, the non-contact work that they do. It's a season that has a similar amount of games that a county season has, and yet they can get wrapped up in such a short period of time compared to what we can. And I think ultimately until you change, I suppose in 2008 we won the All-Ireland, and my last game for the club was on the 14th of December that year, which was the final league match, and we're actually playing the team that was the winners of that match was going to win the league. And then 3 weeks later I was back out in the McKenna Cup campaign, which that idea was end up being the year where I had a lot of hip problems, and I've no doubt that was because I had no off-season whatsoever. And until the GA fixes when I was playing county, I would have loved a shorter county season. So I think the players would prefer it to be shortened, and that they could get a proper county season, and then also allow the clubs to get, I suppose, some sort of fixture calendar in place that suits everybody. And that ultimately, that's the thing that has to come from the top of Croke Park, and certainly the proposals that are there at the moment don't seem to be answering those questions. They're picking bits and pieces and improving parts, but unless you make a major overhaul and start from scratch, I think that's the only chance of actually fixing this once and for all.
Yeah, good stuff, Philip. Great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Okay, thanks, Stuart.
That's Philip Jordan giving us his thoughts there on the back of the Luke Keaney story. Quick wrap up for us now with the Best Menswear competition. Best Menswear have the men in your life sorted this Christmas. Gifts from top brands like Hugo Boss, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein and Marco Capelli, and gifts from as little as 20 quid. This morning we had a €150 made to measure Best Menswear shirt up for grabs, and the winner is Joey O'Shea, this morning's competition winner. Thanks to Best Menswear. 2014 Kilkenny Tip Drawn game had absolutely everything. Best game of hurling of the decade, right down to the Hawkeye drama at the end. We're back tomorrow morning with another Christmas gift guide with thanks to Best Menswear. That's our lot from OTB AM this morning. Eoin is going to move over here. Himself and Tommy, Kieran Donaghy and Ciara Trant are going to review the Gaelic football decade. There'll be a lot of Kerry talk. There'll be a lot of Yara.
There was no Kerry player in the top 10 players of the decade that you put to me earlier on, so just
you're going to put 10
forget about
there.
Kerry, really, yeah.
Yeah, right.
We haven't told Tommy yet.
Stay tuned to OTB Sports Radio. Get it on the Go Loud app or offtheball.com. Cheers.
Jason Sherlock, you're very welcome to the studio. Congrats on the new book.
Cheers, Joe. It's been a while.
It has, yeah. Well, you can't talk to the media now. You know the rules.
That's just a myth. You just don't ask me anymore, Joe.
Okay, well, I'll start asking you from next July through to September and see.
I might have changed my number.
Not many dubs have written books, actually, of your generation. What prompted you? What made you think, I've got a story I want to tell, I'd like to tell?
It was probably a couple of years ago. Just went through, I did a course, an MBA, which was a business course, but one of the modules was organisational behaviour, and one of the assignments was in 3,000 words write about your life. And that was a really key learning for me to actually have to confront challenges that I highlight in the book and never really thought about. So once I did that process, it really gave me the appetite to say, well, one, I'd like to know more about myself, but two, I thought I could add value or people could identify with some of the challenges that I had kind of growing up, through my sporting career, post my sporting career, and then I suppose some of the philosophies I have now as a coach.
Right.
So that was the inspiration.
You say of your childhood, overall a happy upbringing, warm but not carefree, which seemed like a pretty good description. We're talking Finglas, 80s, 90s. You say like Finglas obviously at that time would have had a reputation and there would have been rough and tough times, but your road, a real nice sense of togetherness and a place you really enjoyed being around.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Carrigallen Park, I was lucky. Finglas, yeah, it has a reputation. I was from the south of Finglas and people call that the posh part of Finglas. So, but yeah, Carrigallen Park was just our little kind of our hub of activity.
Yeah.
Both boys and girls, we love sport. That was our outlet. I'm sure, like most homes around the country, you were turfed out once you finished school, or if you were on your summer holidays and you came back when it was dark. So the passion we had was sport. It could be soccer, rugby, tennis, American football, whatever it was.
Curbs.
So Pats, as it was called in Finglas.
It's Curbs and Selbridge, all right.
There's been a lot of debate about the Curbs things. Yeah, it might be just a Finglas thing, but I always remember it as Pats.
Right. Well, we'll compare some rules after the interview. You talk, I mean, the first time I ever really remember you, and I could be wrong obviously, but remember you talking about race in any way was with Lee Chin and the Late Late Show, and I think that maybe was pretty much the first time you did it on a platform that big. I guess it seems, reading the book, like particularly when you came on the scene, the last thing you wanted to do, given your childhood, was hold your hand up and magnify any sense of difference that you might have felt. This was not something for a long time in your life you really wanted to talk about publicly anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Lee Chin, speaking on the Late Late with Lee Chin, it coincided with the NBA process that I was at a stage where I could reflect back and, one, understand it, but two, kind of identify with a lad like Lee and countless other people that have those challenges, and kind of say, well, one, it's wrong, you know, and then the second part was that I could actually help people if they can identify with the challenges that I had. So when I was younger, I used sport as a mode, or so in a way that I'd be accepted. The more I played, the better I played, the more people didn't care in my head how I looked. It was just about, oh, well, he's the footballer or the basketballer. So that's how I use sport. That was right up to kind of 95 and the success, and that acceptance piece had a big bearing on my sporting ambition. But I suppose with the profile I got in the 90s, then the last thing I wanted again was to be highlighting racism or that, because I did receive a lot of negative attention when my performances were below par. So again, the last thing I wanted to do was kind of put my head above the parapet again. So it wasn't until I was finished playing at that stage, and when I could see back that, yeah, listen, it still goes on. It's better, but it's not perfect. But it was something that I felt other people might be going through challenges like this, so it was important to me that I spoke out. Yeah.
The family situation, for people who haven't read the book, your father was from Hong Kong. He wasn't still with your mother. It was a very full house in Finglas.
Yeah, we lived. Nanny was there, and she shared a double bed with my mum. I had Uncle Eddie had his own room, and then I shared a double room with my Uncle Brian. So that was our family.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like my father, he wasn't married to my mum. He was from Hong Kong. His family, they had a Chinese restaurant just off Grafton Street, and he had a big family there. He moved out of the country kind of when I was young, obviously for work or for various other reasons. So, that part of my life and my childhood I kind of shunned, and I didn't want to, I was ashamed by it because it brought so much, in my head, negative attention.
It was. I mean, that side of your life was associated with other lads in your estate. You say... what was slagging is now racial abuse. So whichever term you want to use, let's judge them by the time that it was. Those lads were slagging you for this thing. So of course you're going to associate it with some kind of negativity or shame. You know, when you look back, I'd say from this point, it's plain as day. That's how you're going to feel about your ethnicity.
Yeah, and what was interesting when I went through the reflective process, I spoke to one of my uncles, and he kind of said, "Oh well, we never treated you differently. We always saw you as a dub."
Sure.
And I can understand that message, and it was a great message, but it probably challenged me, because if I was to go back, and it's all in hindsight and reflection, if I was told, well, you are different, but that's okay because we all are different. That's what makes us special.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have accepted the curiosity or the slagging a bit better, but instead I just couldn't. There was this contradiction. Why are they treating me differently? Why are they making fun of me when I'm one of them? And then inevitably that would end up in a fist fight or
anger.
Yeah.